Let's talk politics now. And the opposition National Democratic Congress is calling on the Inspector General of Police, Dr. Akufo Dampare, to effect an immediate arrest of the Minister of Agriculture, Brian Achampong, over some comments the NDC says threatens Ghana's peace and democracy. Mr. Achampong was heard during an address to party followers, vowing that his party would not allow the NDC to come back into power. Reacting to the statement, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbande, said the IGP had to invite the minister over for questioning.
What we are looking forward is to see an awakened institution of the police. You will recall recently how they arrested our youth organizer in Swami, only because he made 10% of some of these remarks. The man who spoke to you is a minister of state. And if the IGP does nothing about it, we will take actions. And our actions will not be worse. We will carry out his threats and demonstrate to him that in this country, much as we love ourselves, we should not pride ourselves causing violence. And that if it is violence, Brian Achampong comes nowhere close to the NDC. Our tolerance, our patience, our resolve is because we have sensible leaders. We have leaders who love Ghana. We have leaders who want to see this country live peacefully, not because we are scared.
Well, Mr. Gbande also said that the NDC would resist any attempts at intimidation by the MPP going into election 2024.
Officials of government have started doing is just an indication of failure. And they have realized that the only alternative to stay on to power is to breed violence as they have done in the past. But I can assure them that we live in a country that has been very peaceful, a country where there are many people who have lived to see this country develop to this extent. We will not allow hooligans to take the country to hostage. And let not anyone underestimate the power of civil reaction. To the extent that if only if Ghanaians vote for the NDC and we have evidence that we have won an election, we can assure them that they will leave. They will leave power and Ghana will live on.
Let's turn our gaze to the environment now. And President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has called on the chiefs and the people of Kwewu in the eastern region to help protect the environment against all forms of pollution. The president said the country's forests and water bodies had to be guarded in a way that would prevent them from becoming a source of disease outbreaks for host communities. Commending the founder of the Abetifi Stone Age Cave, Mr. Ben Addo, for converting an entire refuge site into an eco-park to promote tourism, President Akufo-Addo said the economic impact of tourism couldn't be overemphasized. He thus urged all to ensure optimal protection of Ghana's environment.
We're met here today to celebrate the vision of one person who has transformed the hitherto refuse dump into a heritage site. It has been 9 years in the making, and I congratulate Mr. Ben Addo for the brilliance of this initiative. I'm sure that in trying to execute this project, he faced a lot of challenges which would have forced him to give up. His not giving up is the reason why we're here today. The realization of this project teaches us two essential things. Firstly, the challenge of protecting our environment, our forests and water bodies. If this site was still a refuse dump, there would probably be issues of disease outbreak which would have affected the community. It is for this reason that I appeal to the NANUM and all Ghanaians to help protect the environment, including helping deal with issues of illegal dumping of refuge. Secondly, the need for us to support ecotourism. The economic impact of tourism cannot be overlooked or ignored. Over the years, some of our sister African countries like Kenya, Gambia, and South Africa have been able to leverage ecotourism to create employment and generate significant revenue for their respective countries. At the Tiffy Stone Age Park, a place whose history dates back to some 12,500 years ago, when duly supported, will attract tourists and history lovers into the country. For this reason, I would appeal to everyone, especially all the people of Kwewu, to take this project as theirs. Do not see it to be a project for one person, but as a project for every one of us. And I want to assure the founder, the government for its part, and myself personally, will make the necessary contribution to make this project a reality.
Let's talk health now. And the United Nations Population Fund has collaborated with the Bono East Regional Health Directorate to upgrade an abandoned facility to serve as a central medical store for the region. The structure, according to the Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Adumaku-Boateng, would go a long way to help improve access to healthcare as well as the region's viability in terms of healthcare delivery. There's more in the following report put together by Anas Sabit.
Health service delivery in the Bono East region at the district and facility levels has been greatly affected by the persistently poor availability of essential medicines and medical supplies. Since its creation nearly 4 years ago, the Regional Health Directorate continuously relies on the Bono Regional Medical Store for its supplies, a situation that has generally affected healthcare delivery, particularly in the eastern part of the region. Today, through the support of the United Nations Population Fund, the region is witnessing the handing over of an upgraded warehouse to serve as a regional medical store as part of interventions aimed at institutionalizing best warehouse practices in the newly created region. Regional Director of Health Services Dr. Fred Adumaku-Boateng says the refurbished structure would go a long way in helping the region's viability in terms of healthcare delivery.
If you look at Bono East, we ourselves over here, we have some places that we call Far East. So you can see that in terms of access, getting logistics, commodities for the population of Bono East was a challenge. And that was the very reason why Bono East was carved out from the Bono. And the idea is that you get a viable regional health directorate. And when we say a viable regional health directorate, it means one, the substances, the materials, commodities and medicines that you need to make sure that people have the quality of care that they deserve, they have it. So if you don't have it, then it means that you are not viable region. No matter what you say, you need a functional regional medical stores to be operating. Because when you go to any facility, if you don't have equipment, if you don't have medicines, if you don't have anything to diagnose the people and manage, then obviously it means that you are not viable. So you can see the significance of what we are doing here. We can see that in our journey to becoming viable, today marks actually the birthday of Bono East Regional Health Directorate.
Country Director at the United Nations Population Fund, who are key partners to the event, Dr. Wilfred Ochan, emphasized that the move forms part of UNFPA's quest to help improve access to healthcare.
Chair, please permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to mention that Bono East region is one of UNFPA implementing regions. It means we partner with them and we provide both technical and some financial support to implement some key health programs. Through this engagement, UNFPA has been supporting the Health Directorate and other agencies to improve healthcare delivery through capacity building, in aim to strengthen reproductive healthcare delivery in general. It is my greatest hope, Honorable Minister, and Dr. Awoje, that the institutionalized warehouse, a major investment, will live up to its expectation of providing the congenial storage and distribution of essential medical supplies, that is compliant with and meet the highest prescribed safety, efficiency, and customer satisfaction standards.
On his part, Director General of the Ghana Health Services, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji, commended the UNFPA and other partners for the support provided and asked that there is the need for the Directorate to institute mechanisms that will promote accountability and the efficient use of the facility.
Ladies and gentlemen, I must say that RMS on its own is not an end, as depicted in the drama. Others must be there. So we encourage the new region to put in place system that will promote efficient use of the new facility, that will ensure accountability, that will ensure payment for the communities that are to be procured, and that will lead to sustainability and also growth of the center.
Also present at the ceremony are other key partners in the health sector, including the United States Agency for International Development, who supported the facility with some computers to facilitate the region's quest to achieving universal health coverage. Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Kintampo.
Let's focus on Easter now, and the climax of the redemption story for Christians is the resurrection and ascension of Jesus Christ. The proof of that is an empty grave, which emboldens them in their faith in Him. To date, in modern-day Israel, the Garden Tomb attracts hundreds, if not thousands, of pilgrims to attest to the age-old biblical resurrection story. As Christians marked Easter, JoyNews' Emefa Atiamwa Eli got the rare privilege of entering the over 2,000-year-old tomb in Jerusalem, and here's her experience.
The Garden Tomb, as is referred to in modern-day Jerusalem, perhaps is the most famous and thrilling landmark for pilgrims visiting Israel. A breathtaking feature grasping the attention of tourists as soon as one enters is the serene atmosphere and the freshness of the green garden. Tourists are sure to be lost in the warm, natural scenery and be less bothered about how managers diligently ensure the garden is well kept. The well-mapped out walkways, the sitting areas, and designated huts or spaces for pilgrims' fellowship are just breathtaking. A Garden Tomb manager, Andrew Haynes, shares some historical facts about the tomb.
So how do we know there was a garden here 2,000 years ago? That's a very important question. And the answer is because of this. This is a wine press that is 2,000 years old. You put all the grapes in and you jump up and down on them to get the juice out. But it tells us that there was a vineyard right here. Someone was growing grapes and making wine. So yes, there was a garden here at the time of Jesus. And at the edge of the garden, a rich man's tomb, a burial place cut out of solid rock.
Well, staying on Christ's resurrection, as many Christians committed yesterday to reflecting on the ultimate sacrifice made by Jesus Christ on the cross of Calvary, the Archbishop of the Perez Chapel International, Archbishop Charles Ajinasari, said believers had to reciprocate the love of Christ by promoting the gospel as their form of sacrifice to building God's kingdom.
So this month, let it be a month of sacrifice for you. The early church sacrificed. I mean, look, it wasn't pleasant to be a believer after Jesus died and resurrected, because they arrested him, they killed him, and when he rose, they even said you should shut up. His body was stolen. So it was, you were not allowed to talk about him. Peter, in Acts chapter 3, he said, you people killed him. God raised him. They arrested him. In our days, nobody is arresting us for preaching. Yet when was the last time you told somebody about Jesus? Nobody's arresting you. So in those days, if you said you were a believer, they arrested you. Yet these people will not shut up. They went from house to house and they went publicly into the temple. You are here. Nobody's arresting you. Nobody's fighting you. Nobody's criticizing you. Yet there is nobody, even your relatives, you are feeling shy to tell them about Jesus. You are not sacrificing your pride. Tell them about Jesus. Since you got saved, what have you sacrificed for the Lord? Ask the person sitting by you, what have you sacrificed for the Lord? Amen. Some of them sold their lands. Some of them sold houses. Some of them gave beyond their means. Sacrifice. This month, may it be your month of sacrifice. And not only may it be a month of sacrifice, may it be a month of the release of the power of God on your sacrifice. May God surprise you.
Well, also tied to the season, the General Overseer of the International Central Gospel Church, Pastor Mensa Otabil, has urged Christians to seek Christ from a right place in order to have a healthy and lasting relationship with Him. In his Resurrection Sunday message to his Facebook followers on Where to Go, Dr. Otabil said, if Christians looked for Jesus Christ from the wrong places, they risked missing Him and they might not have that full appreciation of who He was to them. His exaltation comes on a day Christians all over the world are remembering the resurrection of Christ 3 days after His crucifixion and burial over 2,000 years ago in Israel.
Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Indeed and truly, the Son of God is risen from the dead, no more to die, but to return as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. For the disciples of Jesus Christ, the resurrection was a promise, a prophecy, but it was difficult to believe because it had never happened. They had seen Jesus die, or they had heard of it. They had seen all the signs of death. Buried. As far as they could tell, this is the end of the story. And the question is, they were looking for Jesus Christ in the wrong place. He is not here. And that's a very important question for us to consider. You know, most people acknowledge Jesus Christ to be something. Some think He's a good teacher, a good philosopher, a good man, a good philanthropist, positive things about Him. But what kind of Jesus are you seeking for? Because if you're looking for Him in the wrong place, you'll not find Him. If you're looking for the wrong Jesus, you never find Him. And that's what they were doing. They were looking for Jesus in the wrong place. In the tomb, He says, He's not here. If you're looking for Him in philosophy, He's not here. If you're looking for Him just with science, He's not here. There is a place to find Him. And that is to find Him in the words He spoke, as He has said. Today, as we contemplate the resurrection, it's also a moment for us to consider what we are looking for in Jesus Christ and where we are looking for Him from. And if we are looking for Him and we want to find Him, then His words must become the basis of our discovery.
Well, even as we contemplate for our final story, Easter, we also take a look at Ramadan, which still is with us. Now, did you know that a person who intends to donate blood is expected to have a healthy meal before that donation? Have you also asked yourself what is expected of a Muslim donor who volunteers to donate blood during the fasting hours within the holy month of Ramadan? Well, in the following report, my colleague Anas Sabit, as part of our Ramadan series, is engaging some health experts and an Islamic scholar to give answers to the above questions.
Donating blood is considered a life-saving exercise, a good deed that is highly recommended for all Muslims around the world. Well, whilst this exercise is highly recommended for Muslims around the world, there are certain key steps that needs to be adhered to before one donates. And to the fasting person, What should one do if he or she wants to donate blood? This morning we paid a visit to the blood bank of the Techiman Holy Family Hospital to throw more light on this in order to answer this question whether it is advisable for a fasting person to donate blood during the fasting periods. Garba Marwan Abdurraouf is in charge of the blood bank of the Holy Family Hospital.
Here, before you can donate blood, we have a clinical record for you, a questionnaire. After going through the screening process, we ask you to go and eat before you come and donate. You need energy in order to donate blood. And those, we are in the month of Ramadan. If you are fasting, you don't need to donate blood because you don't have enough energy to donate blood. So if you are fasting, medically, you are not supposed to donate blood.
The immediate impact on the body as a result of donating a pint of blood is a loss of red blood cells. And in the short term, a minority of donors may experience light headaches, fatigue, or nausea due to the iron or water loss. And in the case of a fasting person, he or she may lose consciousness soon after the exercise.
You see, the process of donating blood is like you are losing something. At least you are donating 450 ml of blood. You understand? You are losing something. So you need to eat well before you can donate. If not, after donating that blood, you feel dizzy. Even some will even collapse after donating the blood. There are instances whereby people will come. Have you eaten? They say, yes, I've eaten. Meanwhile, the person has not eaten. But because he wants to beat our time, he wants to beat the time, he wants to do it quick and go, the person will finish donating and the person will collapse.
Garba Marwan noted that the facility has an arranged work schedule that permits Muslims to donate blood after breaking the fast.
We have time. We have arranged with our staff. Here it's 24/7. We have morning shift. After morning, afternoon will come and night duty. So what we normally do is this period we have organized ourselves very well. When it's 7 o'clock, our Muslim brothers who are coming in for to donate blood, we are ready for them. After they are breaking their fast, they will come and they donate the blood to their clients.
Even though there's been a series of educative sessions over the years to get Muslim donors accept the fact that one cannot donate blood on empty stomach, there still exist some defiant ones who will oppose to this basic requirement. Gerber is appealing to people who are donating to friends and family to possibly break their fast during extreme situations to save lives and pay later after the month.
We are educating our youth. They should know the importance of fasting and donating blood. You understand? Ramadan, let me say, fasting is something very important to we the Muslims. It's the same thing to us when you are donating your blood to save somebody's life. It's equally important. And I think when you break the fast today and help that person, I think after the Ramadan you can still replace the fasting. But if the person, within some few minutes, if blood is not served, the person will lose his life. How will you get the person back?
From the blood bank of the Techiman Holy Family Hospital, we tried seeking for the religious perspective on this development. Malam Mansour Anas is an Islamic scholar here at the Techiman Al-Sunnah Central Mosque.
When it comes to blood donation regarding a person who is fasting, the ruling on it is not permissible because upon donating blood, it reduces the strength of a person to fast for about 13 or 14 hours. So it's not permissible for you to donate blood as you are in a state of fasting.
At this minute, we know a fasting person is not permitted to donate blood during the fasting hours. But what does one do when he or she has to donate in order to save a life?
When it becomes necessary to save a life, what ulama, the scholars, said is, this is that you have to break the fast and then donate the blood so that you can save a life. So later, after the month of Ramadan, you pay back that day. This is the ruling.
But is there a Quranic verse to back this claim?
Allah, the Almighty, said in the Quran that وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا, that if you help to sustain your life. It's like you are helping the entire mankind to live. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, at this juncture, you should know that it is highly not advisable for a fasting person to donate blood during the fasting hours. This is because the person may lose consciousness and in a worst-case scenario, lose his or her life if the person fails to adhere strictly to the instruction that one need not to donate blood on empty stomach. From the Black Bank of the Teachman Holy Family Hospital and for JoyNews, my name is Anna Savit, reporting.
Well, that's the note on which we cap off the news. But up next, the news review, we're joined by the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima. That's coming up next. Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for the news review, and we're joined by none other than the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima. Mr. Abrahima, a very good morning to you, sir. Hello, Mr. Abrahima.
Hi, Ben. Good morning.
Good to have you join the conversation one more time. Let me just let you know, those of you watching us, that this segment is brought to you kind courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's what they're doing for all of us gratis. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. If you want to get screening for any of these and other matters, just go to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's where you can find them in Accra and beyond. Here in Accra, they're in Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronom Abwehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22. Then there's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama in Zima. You can also reach them on the following lines. The first, 0244 867 068. Alternatively, you could reach them on 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But gentlemen, ladies, the start of the news review. And Sule, I know that these are exciting religious times for you because we often have this shade, Easter and Ramadan coming full circle, side by side. How is your Ramadan going, Mr. Abrahima?
Well, it's indeed a great time, great religious time, that Ramadan is coinciding with the Christian festivities of Easter. And so far, so good. Today is about the 19th day of Ramadan, so some 11 or so days more to go. And so far, so good.
Let me be a little mischievous because I was teasing a colleague at work the other day. It appears, just as with us Christians, when we start Lent, which precedes Easter, sometimes there is the temptation. You know, you've been eating for quite a while. So when you get to that new phase where you have to fast, the likelihood of forgetting is there. Sometimes you may even reach into the fridge. Oh, I feel so thirsty. You reach into the fridge, then it hits you. Oh, I'm fasting. That's why I've not drunk water. Even at this stage, after so many years, it happens to some Christians. Does it happen to you as well, as an example? Just sharing on the faith.
No, I think it is something that can happen. And it has actually happened to me before, years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but this must have been about maybe 10 to 12 years ago. That was the very first day of Ramadan, so the very first day of fasting. And I traveled to friends in a nearby community. And, we got there, and after some time, drinks were being served here and there. And before I realized I had taken some of the drink, before I remembered, but I'm supposed to be fasting. But what it meant was that, I lost that fast on that day and had to pay back after Ramadan. So it's something that can really happen, especially on the very first day. If you are not careful, anything can happen.
Mm. And indeed, my colleague Anna Sabit was just sharing thoughts on that, for example, if you need to donate blood, you can't do it on an empty stomach. So if there's the need within Ramadan, you would have to eat, fill up, get your system active, and then you would donate the blood. But you have to make up for that day after Ramadan. And I found that to be so beautiful. So more power to your elbow as you complete this phase. For some of us, we are done with Lent, so now we are chilling. So more strength to you as you complete this phase. And when the Eid comes, we'll be sure to come and chill with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great. All right, so let's get into some more serious matters. Today, we don't have any newspapers with us, today being a holiday, but there are crucial matters that we can contemplate. The first one I'll bring up, and the next one, I'll play a video. But the first one has to do, in fact, we could get the video of that as well. That assault on a police officer in Wano, Akotosu. And about 6 people involved, 5 of them apprehended, about 7 of them, 2 still at large. It's becoming quite a development, isn't it? The rampant attacks on security operatives. The other day, I saw another video of some police officers or some sort of task force or something tied to the security operatives, and it was a drug-related thing, and they were beaten to a pulp. Suleimana, my heart was in my mouth. One of them was being beaten with a pestle, like, you know, the one we used to pound fufu, and it was just terrible. Then, fast forward just a day or 2 after that, we see this incident. We remember the one in Aksim, where alleged galamseyers attacked police officers. What is going on? I can't comprehend. I don't know what you make of it.
Well, it's a very, very unfortunate development that we are witnessing. And it is the same Ghana that we are in. We used not to see a lot of these things with the level of frequency that we are experiencing now. And it should tell us that increasingly in our society, indiscipline is growing, and indiscipline not only on the part of civilians, but also on the part of the security men and women in the security services. Look, Ben, there is no doubt about the way recruitments are being done now, and the fact that these days it is not about eligibility and qualification per maybe education, your height, your background, and all of that, but more about, are you related to the MP? Are you a cousin to the constituency chairman? Are you a nephew of, you know, the party organizer, and so on and so forth? So you have all manner of people being recruited into the various security services, and that certainly is breeding some, you know, unwanted levels of indiscipline. But related to that is the fact that as a result of how this country is being led, how it is being governed, from religion to politics, everything is broken down. No morals, no values. It's all about making money. And so for me, these are the reasons why we are seeing increasingly the levels of indiscipline in our society, including attacks on security men. But when I say that, it is not just limited to civilians. You remember the recent incident in Accra Central, where you had military men and police officers in open, you know, violent exchanges. These are things that I don't remember the last time, you know, we would see them happening. So for me, it is a reflection of the general breakdown of discipline in our society. And the earlier we tackle it, the better. And it's, as I said, because we have...
How do we do that? It appears to be systemic. How do we do that? Is it just about the recruitment? Is it about continuous training? Is it about how the security operatives engage, you know, civilians and all of that? What are you looking at? What specifically?
So I think that it starts from leadership. Look, I have had the privilege of engaging with a certain retired security officer who at one point, whilst in the service, was basically in charge of recruitment. And he tells me, and at some point even brought out documents about persons who were who went through the examinations, the recruitment exercise, and the list of persons who were supposed to be recruited. And he says, look, if you like, take this list and go into the service and find out how many of these people were eventually recruited. So at the end of the day, it is not about the official list of those who went through the process and got, qualified to be recruited. It's about, as I said, political influences and who is related to who eventually getting recruited. We remember the incident of Double in the Ayawaso West Wogon incident.
Yeah.
So first of all, recruitment is a big issue. But the second point is that, look, leaders in this country must get to appreciate that we need a society that is disciplined, a society that is orderly, for them to even enjoy whatever loot that they are having. And that if we end up having criminals in the police, criminals in the army, and so on, these people are going to hunt them down after they exit office and would want to enjoy the loot from their office. There is no doubt, if you ask any police officer in this country today, he will tell you one of the major things that have happened is that since the appointment of IGP Dr. Dampare, there has been strenuous efforts to improve discipline in the police service. And indeed, a lot is happening. A lot of people have gone on interdiction, police officers, on interdiction over this short period that Dr. Dampare has been the IG. And for good reasons. There are people who would say, this IG is doing a lot of interdictions. But if you speak to those who are genuine and those who understand the security services, they will tell you, look, if Dr. Dampare should leave the service today, what he will be remembered for, at least at this stage, is the fact that he brought so much indiscipline in the service never seen before. But even as that is being done, see what is happening. So it's a question of leadership. Let us encourage the IGP to continue the extraordinary leadership that he is providing. But beyond him, we need ministers, we need MPs, we need the president, we need the vice president, all of them, to begin to act in ways that would exude that kind of moral attitude that we want to see in our country. And then that will cascade down to chief directors, to DCEs, to members of parliament, to assembly members, to unit committee members. Then we will be rebuilding a society that we all want to have. But the way things are going today, look, it is all about money. You have presidential aspirants in the opposition party, for example, saying, look, police ni biye, soldier ni biye, as if these security establishments are meant for people whose party, is in power. But that is not it. It's about every Ghanaian. At the end of the day, whoever must get into the police service or the army or the fire service or immigration and so on, basically must be a Ghanaian of sound mind, 18 years and above, has the required qualification in terms of education, in terms of body size, and so on. It's not surprising these days, you see a police officer, armed, and then you ask yourself, hey, I thought police, they said you must be 5.8 or something to be qualified. But this person certainly would be like 4.2. So how did he get into the service? But we have those people in the service. And I believe that as we go along, if we continue to have leaders like Dr. Dampare at the helm of affairs, and he is given the free hand, because sometimes you want to do what you think is the best, but Charlie, if you are not careful, that will lead you to quitting your position or being removed from your position. So if he's given the free hand to work, I'm sure we would see some improvement. The same with the Ghana Armed Forces. I think the leadership there now is doing incredible work, but they need to do more, and they need to be given the free hand to work. And all of us as citizens must also begin to appreciate the importance of being disciplined. Otherwise, one day our country is going to break down.
Now, the second issue, which also comes with a video, I'm hoping we can play that video, has to do with something disturbing. So the current Minister of Agriculture, also Member of Parliament for Abetifi, says the current New Patriotic Party will not hand over power to the NDC, whatever happens in 2024. According to him, the party will use whatever means necessary to remain in power in 2024. I want you to watch this video, Suleimana, and tell me what you make of it. So we'll take a look at the video shortly. But he also adds that if the NDC... Okay, so that is the video. I'm sure you've seen it already. What do you make of it? Because we have a democratic dispensation. And interestingly, Mr. President said recently that it is not those at the Electoral Commission who matter, but the votes, the ballot of ordinary Ghanaians. That matters. That is what should count towards the selection of a leader. Other people have taken that to mean, you know, in a way, clothed acceptance of what was about to happen. I'm talking about the nominees, Dr. Apia Hene and Hajia Tijani, to the Electoral Commission, who are considered to be partisan elements. But on the back of this by Brian Achampong, what do you make of all of these happenings?
Well, so first of all, I call it a senseless incitement.
You call it what? A senseless incitement?
It's a senseless incitement. It's needless and senseless. I've seen people trying to justify it, trying to garnish it, trying to give it a different meaning. But whatever is said, we've all heard what he said. It's not about something that is being reported. We've heard it. I listened to it yesterday, and I must say that perhaps I wasn't shocked, given that it was coming from the man Brian Achampong. We know the Ayawaso West Wogon violence and the fact that the Emil Short Commission eventually said that Brian must be held responsible for deploying those security men to go and be in charge of a by-election. Even though before the commission, Brian did not say he deployed them, he did not deny that the people came from his secretariat. And at the time, he was a minister of state in charge of national security at the presidency. If you recall, not too long ago, a few weeks or so ago, when he was being vetted by Parliament, the current minority leader, Dr. Atto Forson, tried to ask him, he asked him the question, how can he trust him, given his involvement in the Ayawaso West Wogon incidents? And if you recall, Brian Achampong was shocked because he said, Atuba, you are my friend. You are the person who should vouch for me in terms of my integrity. And ended up almost exclaiming, hey, Atto. So when I watched this yesterday, I said to myself, oh, okay. I can understand that indeed Atto Forson is a friend to Brian and knows Brian very well. And that is the reason why when it came to a matter of national interest, Atto perhaps put aside their friendship and really did what was necessary for the public, because he is a friend and he knows him very well. And Brian says, Atto, but you know me very well. And therefore, it wasn't surprising that Atto, who is somebody who knows Brian very well, put their friendship aside and really went on the tangent of national interest to question him about his reputation, his integrity when it comes to matters of violence. To say that the MPP will never hand over power to the NDC, it's a treasonable comment. I think at the end of the day, It is about the will of the people that would prevail, and not the will of hooligans and the will of thugs. That would never prevail in a country like Ghana that has chosen for itself democracy.
Now, just because you make that point, I want to sneak in 2 bits. There's the Member of Parliament for Ebuakwa South, Samuel Atachia, who says this was just political talk, what Brian Achampon said. It was political talk. I know for a fact that if it were on the other foot, he would sound different. He would be speaking differently. But I think Mr. Bande, who is an executive of the NDC, has said that, look, one of their, you remember up north, one of their party people passed some comments, which he claims are about 10% of what Brian Achampon said, and he was apprehended. What then should happen if you say these are treasonable comments? Do you reasonably foresee that anything would happen to the new ministerial appointee? Do you foresee that?
Not exactly. And in fact, I don't also subscribe to the idea that this amounts to a statement that warrants an arrest. This is a communication of intention that, look, we're going to do everything to win power, and we're not going to hand over power to the NDC. It's a communication of intention. And that is why, for example, the appointment of the 2 partisan persons to the Electoral Commission should raise the alarms and ring the bells in our ears. Perhaps it is part of everything that the party will do to win power, as Brian is letting us know. Because if not, I mean, yes, I don't expect that the president would appoint persons who are affiliated to the NDC to the Electoral Commission. But there are individuals that, you know, people would say, oh, well, these are persons of integrity. These are persons that we don't know their political affiliations. These are persons that we believe would always act right. And of course, the party people would know that behind the scenes, they are members of their party in this whole country. So the MPP could not find persons like that, except to appoint persons who are manifestly and openly partisan, you know, in their conduct. And these people certainly at the EC would be interested in whatever they would do to make the party win power. And I'm happy that maybe Brian is letting us know the steps that they are taking to win power by all means. But, I mean, what I tell people is that if people like Jerry Rawlings, with the charisma, with the courage, and all of that, young as he was in 2000, relatively, handed over power at a time when his peers elsewhere, and in fact, Rawlings left power, and after 20 years, some of his peers were still in power. Even today, you go to countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara has changed the constitution to stay in power. Alpha Condé tried it in Guinea and stayed in power until he was ousted. But Rawlings at that time did it despite the charisma, the aura, the public support, the courage, being a military man. If Rawlings did that, nobody in this country can resist the will of the people. If the Ghanaian people say it is NDC they want, not even the Ghana military, the armed forces, can resist or can say that, no, we wouldn't agree. So I think that Brian is blowing hot air, but as I said, it's a very senseless comment and certainly something that amounts to, you know, treasonable intention. But I don't think that it's a committal of an offense at this stage that we will say, okay, he should be arrested. I think by now, if he's really somebody who cares about his own integrity, reputation, and all of that, he should be worried about the public, you know, criticism and the uproar. Unless, of course, he is one of those who thinks that my claim to fame in my political party is to make some of these reckless comments, because a lot of people have had appointments as a result of building a reputation of always making reckless comments in defense or in favor of their political parties.
Interesting thoughts. Let's wrap with a few. And that bit I brought you was from Atachia, you know, interacting with MFR Pau on the probe. But in other stories on myjoyonline.com, our very own Iñaki Williams scores in back-to-back games as Athletic Bilbao beat Espanyol. Then IMF relief will come to naught, nothing, zero, zilch, if businesses collapse. That's according to Guta. They are saying so. There's also This interesting bit. Sweet Mother hitmaker sold more copies than any of the Beatles. So why haven't you heard of him? You can check out that very interesting story. And back to sports. Jordan Ayew double helps Crystal Palace stage stunning comeback against Leeds United. Let's go to the graphic online. And they also talk about the NDC demanding Brian Achampon's arrest. That story is there. A story that was on myjoyonline.com, which I missed. Kwame Pianim warns of Ghana's economic recolonization. He's been warning of that. Let me just get to that story. And economist Kwame Pianim has raised concerns about the direction of government's activities following an economic crisis in Ghana. In an interview with Joy FM, he criticized the government's trend of ceding control to foreign experts and resulting to constant borrowing from the IMF, which he sees as an indication of incompetence. You recall that recently when Kamala Harris was in the country, we were also told about some representative who was going to be in our country to help us with our economic situation. He expressed disappointment in the leadership of the country, stating that he expected a better performance after 66 years of independence. Quoting him, he said, "We have a finance minister who borrowed and parliament that supported him to borrow. We have now somebody from the US Treasury sitting in the Ministry of Finance to hold Ken Ofori-Atta's hand. Ken told me once, we went to school with these same white boys. We are just as good as they," he said. So if we are just as good, how exactly did we end up here? Let me just see. Yes, and on My Joy Online, going back to My Joy Online, Kwame Pianim says, Akufo-Addo should not sign 3 new taxes into law. What do you make of that economics related story? What do you make of it? We sat in class with these white boys. We're as good as they are. But still, even the very young ones, if you recall the IMF representative who came to Ghana to help us scale the hurdle of the staff level agreement, some said, such a young person, but they'll be dictating to our very old, supposedly learned people. Your take, Suleiman?
Well, it's unfortunate we find ourselves where we are now. Ghana certainly is blessed. And I believe that any leader who genuinely wants to lead this country into prosperity can do so. Right. Of course, we do have the global economic dynamics. I believe every country pursues their own interest. The advanced countries would always act in ways that are in their own interest. Nonetheless, I believe if we have a leader who genuinely wants to leave a legacy of moving this country towards prosperity, it is possible. Right. Whenever I travel out of the country, and by my work, I do quite a lot, sometimes I marvel. I ask myself, so when our presidents, vice presidents, members of parliament, ministers, when they travel to these countries, don't they ask themselves, what at all is making these nations prosperous, better than where we come from, despite our cocoa, our gold, our diamonds, our bauxite, fertile land, youthful population, and so on and so forth. First of all, it's a question of leadership. Unfortunately, yes, I do admit that a number of countries are going through struggles. There is no doubt about that. Right. We are in a global economic turbulence. Kenya, there's been demonstrations upon demonstrations in the last weeks. South Africa is going through the same. Even some of the advanced countries are going through challenges. But how are we as a country really trying to deal with these challenges? We have had a government that is pursuing very autocratic policies. From one policy to the other, you expect that the government will learn that the way to go is to build consensus, is to engage the relevant stakeholders so that there is policy buy-in before they are rolled out. From e-levy, it was about autocracy. We want to do this. From other levies that have been imposed, it's about we are doing this, whether Ghanaians like it or not. We wake up one day and the minister just basically announces that we have removed road tolls with immediate effect. Yet, as the venerable Kwame Pianim says, we have a parliament that is split, and you expect that indeed Parliament would hold the executive accountable. Surprisingly, Ben, and I ask
do you see that happening even with our so-called hung parliament? Do you see that happening in real terms?
Not at all. Not at all. But you see, what I ask myself sometimes, Ben, is that, so how come we have 137 members of parliament from the MPP and one independent member of parliament who has aligned with the MPP? Of course, he has always been an MPP member. And these 138 persons, at no point would any of them or a group of them stand up and say, look, we are Ghanaians, we represent our people. This policy is coming from our government, but we disagree. Never. On the opposition side.
But to be fair, you remember the point about removing Ken Ofori-Atta. We saw 80 plus of them coming together, banding together and saying he must go. That at least, if you say never, I would dispute that, because at least on that occasion, they came together and said against the will of the president.
That was not about a government policy. That is not about a government policy.
Right.
And secondly, yes, they did that, but where has it gone? Ken Ofori-Atta is still at post. Still introducing very obnoxious, unpopular, dictatorial policies. Ken has been, look, I just can't understand. On the side of the opposition, it is the same thing. Oh, we oppose this. We will never endorse this. We will never do this. At the end of the day, 137 people, it will go through. And you also ask them, you ask the question, how come the 137 MPs, we've never also seen any time when one or a group of them would say, yes, I am from the opposition, but I think this government policy is good and I'm going to endorse it. You see that in the advanced countries, in the parliaments of the advanced countries. Is it that we don't have people of conscience? And if we do, why can't individuals stand up and say, look, this is going to be good for my constituency?
And on the other end, like you rightly mentioned, when the vote in Parliament took place on the ministerial nominees, for example, you could realize that who knows how many on the majority side may have voted against some of these nominees. But you could tell from the numbers that a lot more, maybe 30 plus of those in the minority, had voted for some of these people. You saw the backlash. They were called traitors. They were shamed, so to speak. There were social media posts about this person voted this way, that person voted that way. So this bit about a conscience, it's a two-way street, NPP, NDC. I don't think, with the whipping system we have, I don't think they can vote with any proper conscience. It's all about the party and towing its line.
Well, that's really unfortunate, and that is getting us to where we are. And I hope that one day we would get MPs like PC Apiofori back into the chamber, who would say, yes, I'm from the governing party.
Very controversial figure.
I don't think this is the best thing. I would use my power in Parliament to fight corruption and stand up against corruption. Yes, people would denigrate me, people will attack me, but it is about my conscience.
Right.
I think that is what we should be getting to. And unfortunately, we don't have that. When you talk, they say contempt. They will invite you to Parliament, for contempt, and so on. I don't think that this is how we can build a country. Right. I know there are people in Parliament who really would want to do the right thing, and I would encourage them to stand up to defend their own conscience at every moment. Well, it doesn't matter. You can lose your seat.
Exactly. I was about to talk about the consequences. It could be dire for anybody like that. And there are ways of maybe even removing someone like that as far as parliamentary processes or procedures are concerned. And if you're ousted from your end in Parliament or your caucus, that could also have consequences. So I'm sure all of them, when they look at our political framework, they would say, look, my reality is my reality. My people, even when my people say something and it goes against what my party is directing me, it becomes a fine line, a tight rope to expect them to walk. They would be caught between that proverbial hard rock and the deep blue sea. But just to wrap the conversation, I'm sure if we talk about this, we can talk the whole day and not end. I want to go on the BBC. There's one story I will highlight because it talks about a Ghanaian and a trend. But Some of the other stories there: China rehearses sealing off Taiwan in latest drill. Sealing off in quotes. You can check out that story. There's also father mourns murdered daughters at West Bank funeral. There's been a new inflammation, if you like, or conflagration of fighting between the Israelis, those on the West Bank, Palestinians, among others. BBC objects to government-funded Twitter label, and dominant Ram, if you're interested in golf, wins Masters as Koepka fades. There's also Premier League reaction. Arsenal dropped points in title race. They were up by 2-0 against Liverpool, and they allowed Liverpool to claw back a point. Those are some interesting stories on the BBC. But the one I wanted to focus on, Suleiman Ibrahima, from Ghana to Germany, tracking down the owner of a lost wallet. So it's been about, what, 3,500 kilometers from Lampedusa. That is from Ghana. And this wallet was discarded by its owner, Juan Opoku, Richard Opoku. He had been in Germany, I'm just summarizing the story, for a number of years. And you know, there are a lot of these people who travel, go through the island of Lampedusa, end up in Europe. And sometimes, if they perish, their family members will never hear from them again. That was part of the story of Richard Opoku. But then, after many years, this person stumbled on his wallet with his driver's license inside, and then for some reason, pursued it and was able to trace him. Now, it took this journalist all the way to the Bono region, and finally they were able to find his sister, and they found out he was in Germany, and the person went and interviewed him. It's a brilliant story that you can get into. There are so many from Nigeria, Benin, and others who also make that very dangerous journey. But I bring it up because of this. Last year in the first quarter, 3,000 nurses fled our country. I've always said, I have friends, doctors, nurses, especially doctors and nurses. I can name some of, I will not mention names, but I can count some of them who traveled just last year. I know a pharmacist who left. I know an accountant who left. I know so many, and this is just my clutch of friends. So how about Suleiman Ibrahima's friends? How about the next person's friends who have also left? Recently, and I don't think we're taking this seriously enough, the Ghana Health Service Director General, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, said that it's becoming a problem, especially with the nurses. So many of them are leaving. We could get to the point where it impacts the delivery of healthcare. What do you make of the situation in the economic dynamics we are facing? That will be my final bit to you, Suleimana.
Well, it's a development that is being closely observed. You cannot blame those who would want to leave the country. Indeed, you have ministers of state, senior government officials who would prefer to go and deliver in the US so that their children will be US citizens. And these are people who are serving in high positions that are supposed, to help make this country a great place so that in the future, their children will be proud to be Ghanaians. They would rather prefer that they go and deliver elsewhere so that their kids will become citizens of other countries. So you therefore cannot blame the ordinary nurse who is working in a facility with no basic equipment and sometimes have to help pregnant women deliver using flashlights. You certainly cannot blame them. It all comes down to the country we are building, and whether or not we have leadership at any point in time that is making people have hope, people have the aspirations that continuing in the work that I'm doing is taking me to a greater place and would give me a better future than if I were to quit and go elsewhere. You would talk to some of these nurses, and if they tell you the struggles that they go through in these places that they go to, whether the UK or wherever, sometimes you are tempted to say, wouldn't you be better off in your own country with the independence that you have and all of that? But they would justifiably tell you that what I make here in a week is perhaps more than what I make in a month in Ghana. And I need to support my family, I need to support my people, and so on. So it's a very sad development, but it appears that the leadership doesn't care, and therefore you cannot also blame the people who are taking advantage of whatever little opportunities that are opening up for them. I know of friends and relatives who are desperate to embark on that journey. As I said, it is difficult to convince them because apart from the fact that their salary may be meager and they are working under terrible conditions, you don't see any sense of hope for this country. The country is being burdened with debts. Your children, my children, may inherit a worse situation in terms of debt, in terms of the moral values of our country. Unfortunately, we are not doing what we are expected to do. I was reading recently when President Obama talked about the fact that it is morally, not to quote him, but basically morally wrong, morally fraudulent to leave the future generation with a burden through our actions. Unfortunately, that is the Ghana we are building. A Ghana where future generations would have more debts to pay. Future generations may not even have clean water. Future generations may struggle to have better environment to live in.
Right.
And it's all because of the kind of leadership and the kind of, persons that we are and the actions that we are taking today. The earlier we think through this and as individuals commit towards reform, the better for all of us, the better for future generations, and the better for the future of Ghana.
On that bit, just to our audience and to you as well, Suleiman Abrahima, look out for what I'll be doing on Friday in my blunt thoughts, because I have something that many of us have not contemplated that I'll tie to this situation as part of my discourse. But thank you, Mr. Abrahima, for joining us, for doing us the honors this holiday morning. And once more, all the best with Ramadan. Look forward to seeing me when the Eid comes.
Thank you so much, and happy Easter Monday to all our Christian friends. And may we have a better celebration and reflect on building a better Ghana for all of us.
Amen, and thank you. Suleiman Abrahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. This segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Locate them here in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronomabwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade Anaji Estate in Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzima. You can also call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, and in fact, the end of the news review. Up next, my colleague Nathaniel Atto talks interesting sports as he gets into Prime Take. That's in sports, up next.
Very much for joining us on this channel for this very important conversation. And as we always promise you, there are major conversations to have, especially as we've started off yet another year and yet another calendar in sport. Today, we're hosting a man who's had massive experience when it comes to club administration and rose to the high office of Vice President of the Ghana Football Association. Well, he put himself up for the presidency of the association, and at the last election, he decided to let everything go and decided to pave the way for, smoothness, so that, the process comes to an end and one person is elected. And that was in that very tough and tight election with the current FA president, Kurt Okreku. My guest here today is George Efriye, and he is a former vice president of the Ghana Football Association. There are thoughts to share after major developments over the last football year. Good to see you.
Oh, not. Long time no see.
Great. It's always good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you look well.
Well, we keep in shape in this world. If you want to grow old, you can grow old. if you still want to look young, you can look young. You just have to exercise, control your diet, and then you pray to God that He gives you grace.
And play a bit of football as well?
Yes. One of those old player stuff, the Sunday stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, once in a while, why not?
You know, we've been through a whole period of stories and happenings in our football. We attended the FIFA World Cup, we saw what happened. Immediately after that, we went to the CHAN, and we also saw what happened. Let's begin with the CHAN and Ghana's performance there. There were those who said from word go that the team was not going anywhere. There were those who also expressed a lot of hope, especially because of the kind of quality material we had. But hey, we couldn't make it. It's as simple as that.
Well, sometimes I really don't want to dwell too much on successes of the national team as the base of our development. We tend to judge.
Isn't it supposed to be a reflection of our development and how well our development is going? Well, there's always the talk about how if our juvenile teams are performing, for instance, then we know that in the next few years we're going to have a solid national team.
Okay, so Nat, if you agree with me and you walk the line with me, you understand that we shouldn't be expecting too much from our various national teams. The question is, have we laid the solid foundation that merit the kind of successes that you are looking for? The answer is no. If you lay a good foundation, yes, of course, then you can anticipate and expect that in competitions like the CHAN, first of all, you first have to look at our local league, look at our juvenile setup, the juvenile national teams, which are supposed to be the base where the players will be promoted into various national teams, especially the senior ones, CHAN, be it IHAN or the Black Stars. For me, looking at what is going on, it's very difficult, very, very difficult to be too hopeful that going into a competition like the CHAN or the World Cup, we're going to do very well. I think that when we took over from normalization committee, the job was cut for the new administration to lay a solid foundation and expect growth or expect some successes to come at the end of some competitions. But for me, that has not been the case. That has not been the case. That is why I think that we have not laid a solid foundation to merit our hope for successes in various competitions. For me, we've not done that.
I've seen some journals and all, do ratings of different sorts, especially ratings of the quality of the leagues that are played in Africa. At the last count, we did not see Ghana in the top 10. And I guess that is something that goes along with what you're saying. But
not necessarily.
For your own, yes, so I'm coming to that. For your own rating of our league, holistically, I mean, where would you place our league? Because, I mean, we're talking about value, we're talking about quality, and we're talking about the levels of entertainment and all of that.
You see, I want to link my answer still to the CHAN.
Okay.
Okay, the current champions of CHAN, the eventual winners, Senegal, how would you rate their league? I don't think the Senegalese league is even better than the Ghanaian league, for me, if you ask me. But I'm still saying that if you lay a solid foundation, and I'm talking of development of players, development of football, if you lay a solid foundation and you comb around Ghana, be it Division 2, be it Division 1, Premier, you should get quality players to represent Ghana, irrespective of the position of our league in terms of ranking. Because with Senegal as eventual winners, they have rubbished that analogy. Because you and I will agree that when it comes to African football, I mean club competitions, I'm talking of CAF inter-club competitions, the Super Cup, the Champions League, the CAF FA Cup, no, what do you call it? The CAF...
the Super Champions or
no,
the Confederation?
We have the Club Champions League and the other one.
The Confederation Cup.
The Confederation Cup. CAF Confederation Cup and CAF Champions League. If you look at the clubs that have dominated over the years, it's the North Africans. Once a while, a certain TP Mazembe comes through. You understand what I'm saying? So if you are using that as a measure, then going to CHAN, we shouldn't expect too much. We should expect those North Africans to do well at the CHAN. Yes, the eventual host came second, or they were the finals, the runners-up to Senegal. So for Senegal winning the competition, they've rubbished that. So it means that yes, even in the past, when Ghana was not doing that well, we've been to 2 finals. So I don't really want to use that.
So if I get you clearly, it's more of a tournament mentality and something extra which we are not able to develop in our players here on the local scene. Is that it?
You see, you are going into a tournament. Let me use the last under-17, for example. The under-17 is the first point of our youth development, not coast in terms of the national team ranking. I'm not using youth development as coast, under-12, under-15, and not that one. I'm talking of in terms of the national team. It was supposed to be even under-15, but the under-15 is in non-existence. It's just by name. Because the last time I checked, I don't remember the under-15s taking part in any competitions. But then with the under-17, be the first point of proper development from the youth. In the past 3 years or 4 years, we've had 4 different coaches. How is that development? In the past 4 years. So it means that you have not have a plan, a program that you are going to execute to make sure that this program reflects at the top. You need to groom from 17 to 20 to 23, some branches to the local Black Stars or the Galaxies as we call it now. Because remember, whilst we are playing the juvenile competitions in international competitions, most players will get the chance to travel abroad. The rest will remain in the league. And a typical example is the last under 20, the last under 20, the last under 17. A lot of them are still in our league. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have a proper development, most of these players should be able to transit to the Galaxies, as we call them now. Check the last time we played we hosted Waffle, this is the Waffle Zombie
very well
Cup of Nations in Cape Coast,
sure,
where Ghana was the eventual winners.
Sure.
We have some players who are still in the system who are also doing very well. I remember when the first call-up was made, I saw the name of, not former Midiama player, Vincent Atinga. Yes, that's the name. He was part of the Galaxies. I saw Mohamed Alassa, initial stages when the call-ups were made. He was part of the Galaxies. I saw Kaliba Manko.
Very well.
They were all part of. What are those players? You see, we don't follow consistency. In football development, sometimes consistency plays a role. Some of the players that you used to qualify the team to Algeria were dropped. So we are not consistent. We don't have a solid program where we make sure that we follow it through. That is the problem. It is not about ranking. Ranking can be done because we've seen countries rank outside the world top 20 coming into major competitions and excelling. We've seen it all the time. We see it always. So it's not necessarily about the ranking. Yes, when you want to put those rankings in terms of the league, you need to put all the factors on the table. Let's go to the North Africans. Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria. Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria. Let me use Morocco. These 4 countries. What have they done in terms of their football development? What have they done? Can we compare? Can we say same to us? We've all traveled. We've all been to these venues. In terms of even infrastructure, in terms of football, quality football pitches for major tournament. Ghana, yes. Under President Kufuor, we had 4 beautiful stadiums, well built for major competition. The Aliu Mahama Stadium, the Sipon, the Kumasi and Accra. What are the states now? Can we say same? Fortunately, we had one from late Professor Mills from Cape Coast Sports Stadium, so making it fine. What is the state of our venues currently? Now, let's pick the clubs involved. If you've been to Egypt, Ali is like a whole new Ali as a club, I don't know how to you can compare Ali to the Real Madrid or the Barcelonas or the Man U's and all that. It's a whole cult organization. People worship Ali, same as Zamalek. You go to Morocco, same. You go to Algeria, same. You go to Tunisia, the Esperance and all that, Club Africains and all that. Can we say same? Yes. Here in Ghana, we can talk of the Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Accra so forth. And let me comment at this point. Let me comment Togbe Afede for the role he's playing or what he's doing for Accra so forth. You see, yes, it is true we want to win trophies, but what Togbe is doing is setting up the standard first, getting the base, as I'm saying, getting the base. He's putting the base down so a solid foundation can be laid on the base. If players can get a very good accommodation to sleep, if right from my clubhouse I can walk to the gym, right from the gym there's a football field, and these are the things you need to put in place for a solid takeoff. And so for me, I think that Togbe is doing well. The young man in Kumasi is also doing, and when he came, he's taking up the Adakujachi project, he's doing it. So for me, I think that the clubs in between Kotoko and Has, they are doing something right. For now, let's give them time. And then if the FA can complement what the clubs are also doing. When I say it, people will say that, oh, this is the responsibility of the clubs and all that. You see, as a football association, you need to put the framework for every club to follow. Framework, when I say
framework as in the club licensing regime.
Exactly.
Very well.
Are we complying with club licensing?
Well, I mean, from where I sit, we've had some major, we've had some major milestones with the implementation of the club licensing regime. For instance, certification of coaches who coach in the Premier League. That is now part of our skin, and that is full-blown now, and we're adhering to it. In terms of our pitches as well, I mean, we have to be honest. I mean, we've seen clubs get banned. I mean, venues get banned temporarily until they met the criteria. I mean, we could talk about the story of Liberty Professionals, when they were in the Premier League and all of that. So over there, I can say where we've seen one or two things being done. Of course, these are not the only criteria under the club licensing regime.
What about the financial criteria?
Very well, but
see,
so thing is, what my expectation is, or what I know, as has been communicated by your fraternity, which is the football fraternity, is that this is being implemented in stages.
Yeah.
So, for instance, do you feel we're ready to have, for instance, a regime where you can ask clubs to have a certain minimum financial base, maybe $1 million for everybody? I have that financial buffer of $1 million, in your account before you can run in the Premier League. You're looking at something like that.
That's not even the area I'm going. That's because, of course, it's almost impossible. But the truth is that, how well is our league packaged? How well is our league packaged to attract sponsorship, serious sponsorship? I'm not talking of the sponsorship of $1 million. No, that's not the sponsorship I'm talking about. Because we've enjoyed 3 million before. We've enjoyed 2 million before. So if in 2023, 2022, you are enjoying
so 1 million per season is an apology for you?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. You've enjoyed 3 million 10 years ago, or 15 years, or 12 years ago. You've enjoyed 2 million some years ago.
No, but the 2 million and the 3 million you're talking about, at a certain point, they couldn't fulfill it.
Yes.
Capital Bank of old.
Yes.
It was a tier 3 bank.
Yes.
Their management sat through, their consultants sat through, and they said, this is not something a tier 3 bank can.
And we went to court and we got our money.
Well, you went to court and got the money?
Yes, of course. You don't know of the Glow issue. Are you not aware of the
Not Glow. I'm talking about Capital Bank.
Capital Bank. Last time I checked, the contract we signed, we almost got all our money.
Well, almost, but not all.
Well, but I'm saying that you can't be coming from a 3 million and a 2 million and get.
Because I had a chat with Mr. Nyantechi, who, under whom you served as vice president, and he told me that one of the difficulties that the FA had at the time was setting that precedent of taking a partner or a sponsor to court, because then corporate Ghana was watching. So that was one of the difficulties.
Yes, but that is true, because there's a way you can always judge all. And remember with the glow issue, remember how many years we have to engage. You understand? How many years we have to engage. But the issue is that we need to learn from the past. The fact that we made certain mistakes in the past, it means that we are expected to do things better now. Is that not the case?
Before you go on, let me also, I'm looking at it from various angles. We're looking at the economic situation in the country as well.
Yes.
Corporate Ghana, the levels of spending when it comes to sponsorship support and grants and all these that fall within that bracket of giving back to society. Is that not a consideration such that we look at the economic situation in the country and say that maybe $1 million is decent, considering the fact that generally the economy has gone through a very tough turn, and because of that, businesses are also struggling, and it's difficult to get amounts as much as 3 million?
Nat, I have a different approach.
Okay, tell me about it.
To securing sponsorship for a product like the Premier League.
Okay.
And I'll explain. You see, I find it difficult to understand that when the Black Stars are playing, we can get all the resources from government to fund it. But when the teams like House of Folk Kotoko are participating in club competitions in Africa, we can't fund same. I find it difficult to understand. I think that the FA need to sit down with the sports ministry and make a case.
For that matter, government?
Yes. To make a case that yes, our number one product, apart from the Black Stars, and in terms of football in Ghana, I'm talking of the Premier League, we need the government help for some state agencies to support the Premier League. Elsewhere, it's done. Well, if you have a good rapport and you are able to explain, you are able to put the numbers on the table to explain to government that no, Mr. President, can you speak to Ghana Gas, GMPC, Vodafone, to come to our aid? I think that if you make a genuine case and the president can understand that yes, our number one league in Ghana needs sponsorship and the state must find a way to sponsor, why not? I will explain why you need to fund Premier Division in Ghana through a collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Sport. That, if you look at this country, take out politics. There's only one product that unites the country, which is football. Irrespective of our House of Folk or our Asante Kotoko or our Olympics, on every Sunday, a sporting activity engage the attention of the citizenry. And this is good for social development of our country. Every country, every government that does not pay heed to the youth, the upbringing of the youth, you are in serious trouble. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, I think that the FA need to make a case before government. Make a case before government. Why you need government to support in securing sponsorship for the league. And I don't think this is far from where other countries have been able to do it and they've succeeded. I can mention a lot of countries where even here in Nigeria here, state governors take over the running of leagues in their various jurisdictions. State governors. So I'm saying that in Ghana, if we are able to put the numbers and tell the president that, Mr. President, in every week, if we are able to get a sponsorship to take care, these are the number of people that football take care of. The number of people. Because remember, the clubs, when there's a football activity at Accra Sports Stadium,
there's a ripple effect.
Yes. The byproduct.
Sure.
Everybody, including yourself, you're good. So we need to make a case. We need to make a case and let government understand that, Mr. President, we need your support in order to secure a sponsorship for our Premier League. Yes, we'll do our part. We'll have to package our product in such a way that it will be appealing for corporate bodies to say that, yes, I'm interested to associate myself with football in Ghana. Fortunately, in recent times, the act of hooliganism are going down. We don't hear of too much of what used to happen in the past, which is a good sign. So we need to build on that to attract. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Very well. So, I mean, all put together, it's not really going well.
Yes.
The running of our football is not really going well.
Yeah. You see, when I speak,
yeah,
I know my submission and my answers to most of these questions may sound a bit controversial, but it still remains the facts. You see, in recent times, we've witnessed certain bad officiating where referees are not punished. Sometimes the punishment is kept in the dark. You don't even hear it. Sometimes you get the federation even defending the act. We hear referees coming out boldly to apologize for mistakes. Yes, we accept that referees can make mistakes. But where one is going to a venue to watch a football match, where he has already heard the score line, in this case, the age of betting.
But these are not new. These are not nouvelle to our football. I mean, for somebody fans going to the stadium and knowing the scoreline ahead of time is not new.
If we keep on saying this is not new, then we are not ready to change.
That's not the problem. All I'm just saying is that
it has happened in the past.
Very well. So we need to acknowledge that as we move forward.
It has happened, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that the
it's
rate at which it's happening now, the rate at which it's happening now, speak to the clubs. I talk to the clubs always. The fact is that
it's gone from bad to worse.
Of course. Of course. I have cataloged a number of incidents. In the coming days, I'll bring them out.
Betting is affecting our game. Betting is affecting our game?
Thankfully, the FA took a very drastic decision. Personally, I think that whether I don't want to delve into it too much, but I can say that when you punish clubs, it serves as a deterrent. As we speak today, we are aware that certain clubs have been expelled or banned, whatever way you want to. It's a good step. Whether you like it or not, it's a good step. But are they the only clubs who are doing it? Or they were just picked as an scapegoat?
If you were asked that question, what answer would you give to it?
Personally, I think that betting still exists in our system. And
got evidence?
I'm saying that personally, I still think that betting is still going on.
Well, this is, like you said, I mean, these are very heavy allegations. And, I mean, if you make them on such a national platform, then you should be able to.
But not. Some of us, we sit and thankfully through your media, we see these things on TV where people mention the scoreline of, and then it comes to pass. We hear it every day. And it's not sheer coincidence. These are not sheer coincidence.
But people predict games sometimes. We all do sometimes, and you know.
Well, people do. But trust me, we need to get serious. If really we want to eradicate it completely, we need to get serious.
Well, if you just joined us, we're having this conversation with former Ghana FA Vice President George Afriyie. We've been talking about issues of organization of our league, the attractiveness of it, the look and feel of our national teams, especially the conversation around the Championship of African Nations that just rounded up in Algeria, and Ghana's performance, Ghana's place over there. Would like to now delve into the issue of you and your place within football administration, in the country.
This has been one of the major national exercises by the Ghana Water Company Limited to retrieve 680 million Ghana cedis owned by its customers. The team took to the Nungwa district to recover a debt of 4.7 million Ghana cedis. Printers, Walker Building System, U Fresh Company and Qatar Company Limited were the major defaulters. Out of the four, Beverage Factory U Fresh Company Limited was disconnected over non-payments of bills worth 163,000 Ghana cedis. Managing Director for Ghana Water Company, Dr. Clifford Brimer, cautioned staff not to spare any defaulters.
We should not be thinking for the customer. Let the customer think for themselves. Some of them will say that because there's no flow in our pipes, we are not going to pay. We are not a prepaid company. We are a postpaid. Going to collect your bills means that some water has been consumed. And whatever water that has been consumed, there was chemical use, electricity used, and they need to be paid for. And so somebody cannot say that because he's not going to get water tomorrow, he's not going to pay for what he spent yesterday. I don't think there's logic in it. And we must not give the customers that opportunity to use that as a basis not to pay. Once your meter reads, it means that you have consumed. And we are asking for what you have consumed, but not what you are yet to consume. And so when we get to you, don't tell us, oh, we don't get regular flow. Yes, we know we don't get regular flow, but your meter has read. It means that some water has passed there. And we use chemical, we use electricity to produce that water. So let's go out strong enough and retrieve the money. And at the end of it, the company becomes good. Ghanaians who are even resistant to pay will pay because we improve our services. Without that money, we cannot improve our services at all. We have chemical suppliers to pay. We have electricity to pay. We have our pipe suppliers to pay. We have valve suppliers to pay. How do we make the money if somebody who has consumed your water says that because he's not getting water tomorrow, he's not going to pay for what he spent yesterday? I don't think it's logical enough. And we should not allow them to do that.
Textile manufacturing company Printers owes Ghana Water over 3 million Ghana cedis. They paid half of the amount. Dr. Clifford Brimer believes this is in the right direction.
Printers was because they have two product lines here. One line for printing the fabrics, and Kali and Calipo. Its rates went higher. So they were disputing that they didn't understand why we should put them on the higher rate instead of on the lower rate. And for us, we are looking at balancing and making sure that we are able to generate the revenue for our operations. But the subsequent review from February, they are up to date, and so we came to talk about the arrears. We have agreed on the paying the 50%, which they have done, and the other one will go and look at the numbers, see what is left for them since they disputed the figures.
He also revealed that pronouncement by the Electricity Company of Ghana concerning the debt owed by Ghana Water Company Limited was not done in the right direction.
Regions do not pay for the production centers of Ghana Water Company for electricity. Headquarters does, and the regions are responsible for the payment of the office premises and accommodation, which they have been paying. And so if there are arrears on the region for a particular system, it has to be at the head office. And the head office also, through the ESLA, some of the production centers' electricity are being paid by government through ESLA. When they pay through ESLA, then we distribute the credit across the production centers. So all the regions will get the credit. So if they do not come to their head office and they sit in the regional levels, they will be misrepresenting the issues. And so the 17 million that they were talking of in Volta region and threatening to disconnect them, it was unnecessary.
The Ghana Water Company Limited's connection exercise is still ongoing, and it is expected to continue until all debts have been paid off. Jacqueline Ansuma-Yeboah's report for JoyNews.
And here we are back in the studio. Welcome on the AM show if you're just joining us. And we continue on that trajectory talking about water theft, revenue mobilization on the part of the Ghana Water Company Limited. We're pleased to have joining us in the studio the communications manager, Stanley Marty. Mr. Marty, happy holiday to you.
Same to you.
It's a working holiday for us, and today we've dragged you here. So we don't want you to sit at home and chill. We want you to come here.
It's the usual thing. We work 24/7, so anytime. Anytime, anywhere.
Wait, are you saying your schedule is like ours, so that even on holiday?
Yeah, definitely, because people drink water throughout the day.
But is it all the time you have to? All the time?
Occasionally, you also rest. We do, but like anytime duty calls, we make ourselves available. Yeah.
Well, occasionally, but trust me, I've been working holidays for like 9 years straight. But thankfully, on Good Friday, we had an arrangement, so my colleague was here, and finally,
that was good.
I was able to
In fact, I thought I was also going to rest today until I had a call to be here. So I'm here. But from here, I hope to be home, have a good rest, because we need to start again from tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll be in the central region.
Okay.
Yes. Now all directors are moving into the regions to join the regions to work with them so that we'll be able to retrieve all our monies.
So tell me, what have you done so far? We know of the Greater Accra region. Now you say you're targeting the central region. Which areas have... In fact, even before we get into that, why this revenue mobilization drive? Is it just on the back of the ECG doing something and you also felt, you know what, let's shake up a bit. We are owed some 800 million Ghana cedis. What was it?
You know, it's been a strategy for all utilities for a very long time.
Okay.
Except the media hasn't been interested. So
really?
So we only issue announcements and press releases, and it's in the news, and then that's it. But this time it's like the media has gotten very much involved, and they are moving with us. And I think it's good. For me, I really appreciate the support from the media, and I hope they're going to continue to do that, because we all need to get involved and to ensure that the utilities function effectively, and then we can also serve our people well. The media is interested in us serving our people well, so why wouldn't they also be interested in people paying us? So I think it's a good sign, it's a good support, and we appreciate it very much. Now, I said I was going to move into Central Region next week. It is not like on district basis or on regional basis, but we are moving out nationwide. So all districts are doing this simultaneously. All regions are doing this simultaneously, except that those of us, the directors at the head office, are moving down into all the regions to support them. We need to find out what the actual challenge is. Okay, until December, our arrears stood at around 600 million Ghana cedis.
That is until December 2022.
Yes.
Right.
And then just first quarter is ballooned to 800 million. It's a cause for worry.
That's an addition of 200 million within just about a quarter.
Exactly. So that is why we want to go down and to find out what the actual challenge is. Now, there has been experiences on the field. We've had the opportunity to educate more of our customers so that they appreciate what we find ourselves in, so that they pay. And we also realized that most of our customers were not treating our customer care officers very well, because even for us on the field, we haven't been treated very well by all customers. And we hope that the situation or the narrative will change as we move on with more education and trying to collect our monies.
Now, I'm curious, 800 million. First off, you've explained the addition from the last quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year. But how did we get here, and why wait for so long? I mean, when you realize we're getting into so much in terms of arrears, people owing you so much, why did we have to wait this long till this point? 800 million Ghana cedis is a lot of money. And looking at the complaints that you often come up with, nowadays you complain about turbidity levels of the water you have to process, the chemicals you have to use. You've even warned in the past that if we don't get things right, we may have to import water.
Exactly.
So on the back of all of that, why would we wait till we get here?
My brother, you know that our system is a post-paid system. So people consume the water before we bill them. Okay, and I think that is our challenge. But our situation is such that is the way we can do it. All we expect that our customers, our consumers, will be patriotic enough, will be responsible enough, okay, so that they add their utility bills to their monthly budget and then they pay on time. They pay promptly so that we can also function. And I think that's about it, okay? Because if, for instance, you have to pay before you get a product, we wouldn't be in this mess, okay? But our situation and our system is such that you have to consume before we bill you, so that people consume the water and then they are reluctant to pay.
So two things. We have to pay before, we have to consume before we pay. I get the system.
Yes.
It is post-pay.
Post-pay, yes.
But should we wait? I mean, you see that someone, let's say industry, let's say someone has consumed about 30,000, not paid, 50,000, 100,000, 120,000. At what point do you have triggers that show that, look, this person consistently hasn't paid for a while. We have to step in and either recover some funds or disconnect the person.
Okay, so we haven't waited, but then we have customers that we serve. We have a relationship with our customers. Sometimes we want to assume that we are also challenged, so we want to give you a bit of time. Okay, but then if it has to continue beyond a month, beyond 2 months, then it becomes a cause for worry. Per the PULC regulation, 14 days after receiving your bill, you have to make do with the settlement of your bill, or else you'll be liable to disconnection or for disconnection. So that has been the trend, and that has been how we go about it. You know, the situation is also such that we move out every time to warn them. We send them demand notices. We send them their demand notices and all that, and expect that they'll pay. So sometimes our arrears go down, sometimes it goes up. Okay, sometimes when they pay promptly or when we collect, it goes down, and then sometimes it goes up. Okay, and it is just strange that within this short quarter, within this quarter, we've had a balloon this way. It has never happened before, and that is why directors had to leave their offices and to find out what actually is happening. We also realized that, I mean, on some of the experiences, is that when we had the last tariff, most industries...
You mean the tariff adjustment?
The tariff adjustment.
Right.
Most industries refused to pay because they felt that the difference was too high. And they have been meeting with us to see how best that challenge can be solved. But then the thing is, we expected them to be paying, whilst we are in discussion.
So while we find a solution, do the right thing, make payment.
Exactly. But most of them stopped paying, hoping that there'll be some change. But even if there'll be a change, it will be a change moving on, but not a change going back.
Right.
Okay, because if the tariff
Which also means that whatever they've not paid for, they will still pay according to the tariff rate as it prevailed then.
Exactly, because if the tariff is gazetted, GWCL can charge less, okay, and we can charge more. So whatever you have been billed for, you have to pay. So whilst we are in discussion, the expectation is that you continue paying your arrears. If anything is to happen in the next quarter, then at least you can go down. And we expect that PULC will go by their own laws, such that you look at the parameters there as it is, and if it has to go up, you don't burden the utilities by reducing it when it has to go up. When it has to go up, fine. When it has to come down, fine. And there's been times when the quarterly review has gone down, and we have accepted it. We work with it. So if it goes up, why should people refuse to pay? And
the last time that there was supposed to be tariff adjustments, you wanted a lot more. You got much less, both you and the ECG.
Exactly, and we have been working with
Do you feel that was apt per where we find ourselves, per what it takes to produce water for ordinary Ghanaians?
You see, with time, we keep learning.
I just want to brief one of that because there are other pertinent issues related to where we are now that I want us to get to.
Okay, for us it wasn't adequate. But what I wanted to say is that we keep learning. If we realize that if we manage differently from previously how we're doing it, we could do better even with the tariff that we had. And that is what has been happening. Okay, so we are managing even with a little, and everything is going on well. But if the arrears keep rising, then it affects our operations, because we also need to pay our indebtedness to other organizations.
I want you to consider carefully the question I'm about to pose to you and give me an answer.
I will.
Should we get to the point where, like with electricity, for most people, water also becomes prepaid? Are there any such plans? Should we get to that point, first of all? And are there any plans you're considering to sort of mitigate your losses?
Yeah, we have piloted the prepaid system before, and it didn't work for us. So,
why do you think
but we haven't abandoned that idea, okay, because it's a good one. But then the thing is, we need a more robust system. Okay, we need a better system that can suit our terrain. Okay,
what do you mean? Is it a measuring mechanism or what?
With the previous system that we had, a lot of people tampered with equipment, and so we run at a loss. Okay, so what we did in the pilot was to select 3 areas: one elite area, one average area, and one low income area. And you'll be surprised that even those in the elite area had to tamper with the equipment. How much more those living in low income areas? So
when you say equipment, you're referring to the meters.
Yes,
the meters.
Yes, the meters. So then we had to abandon the situation to go back to our conventional system. We have been having discussions with a lot of organizations that are into metering, and so we are hoping that we are going to get a better system that will help us, such that if there's any bypass, we'll be able to identify it. And there should be more sensors, so that when there are legal connections, when people tamper with the equipment and all that, we will be alerted. Then we can act. If you get any system like that, we will go back into it. There are a lot of people who have brought us such systems, but it hasn't worked. Yeah, and currently we have one that we are using for standpipes. Okay, and that we are also deploying throughout the country, because that works for standpipes, because there's always a vendor. Okay, so it's very difficult for you to tamper with it. But for the ones that we have to use in our homes, let's say for our properties, our homes, our organizations, and blah, 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 those ones, we really need to be careful, because now everything is expensive. Input for the production of water is very expensive. And so the slightest mistake and you're going to fall, and we don't want to go down like that. So,
Before we get into the central region, like you started talking about, and what else you've been doing, I'd just like to find out, on the back of all of these things we're discussing. So first off, the prepaid system, let's say in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, I've seen some plans that you've had as a Ghana Water Company, and which you've been using incrementally, doing this, doing that, and getting better at what you do. Would you say in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, there should be a prepaid system in place to forestall some of what we have? I mean, there should be a plan to say that, look, we are not there yet, but maybe in the next quarter, in the next year, in the next 2 years, we should get there. Is there such a plan?
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to, okay, anyway, there is a plan and we are working on it. But it's very difficult for me to say that's going to happen in the next quarter, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. Because we always get people come in with proposals like that. I mean, Chinese guys are always around us with different types of equipment. We've had equipment from Denmark. We've had equipment from almost all over the world. Okay, but then what we expect to suit our terrain, I don't think we've had it yet. For instance, so if you are able to get it...
So in other words, why we've not been able to implement this is we've not found equipment that suits our terrain.
Exactly.
That can work.
Exactly. So if we should get any organization or institution to bring us a meter that we think that this will work for us, we'll pilot it immediately, and if it works, we'll roll it out. Because prepaid system is a good thing, and it will help us. I mean, instead of moving around with chasing all these arrears, it wouldn't happen if you have to install prepaid meters.
In these economic times, there are lots of companies with the tariff adjustment, then again with the economic situation, and some of them will tell you we're not even selling as much and all of that. For commercial entities, industrial entities that are struggling, that have not been able to make payments, whether intentionally or unintentionally. How do you deal with them? Do you have any way of, negotiating with them? How is it done?
Yes, yeah. Like I said initially, we have very good relationship with most of our customers. So if you have such challenge, we need to weigh your challenge, and then we see how best we can help each other. So sometimes we have payment plans for them, and then if you do not default, then the relationship continues very well. But you have to default, then it means that one party will have to withdraw from the agreement, and that is what happens. So we try to support each other. We also have people we owe, and if you are unable to pay, we also go into such arrangements with them. And if they are able to do it for us, why can't we also do it for others? So we have very good relations, and that is why we are not hearing a lot of stories like GWC has been disconnected here, this didn't get chemicals to do this and all that. All our chemicals come in and we take time to pay. So we also have that flexible terms, but we don't want anybody to default. Same way we also don't default when it comes to those we are indebted to.
Talking about owing, in recent times we found out that you owed ECG, and apparently they also owe you.
Yeah.
How are you guys dealing with that situation?
We consume power, they also consume water. So obviously that is going to happen. And it's always been like that. And we have a way of offsetting our bills. Sometimes ours goes higher and they have to pay us. Sometimes theirs go higher and we have to pay the difference and all that. So there's a way that we offset. So all our systems, for instance, are managed or are paid at the head office level, because that's where we do the offsetting. But with our regional offices and our bungalows and all that, they are supposed to pay at the regional level, and sometimes by the individuals who live in the home. So that is settled very well. And per our culture, we know staff of ours should owe any utility for it to become news. So we just expect that.
So that's a policy?
Yeah, it's a policy for
no
us.
staff of the Ghana Water Company?
No, yes, it's a policy
should
for
owe
us.
any utility provider, including
Exactly.
Ghana Water?
Exactly.
So that it becomes...
Yes, we pay. So I pay my water bills. Yes.
So we know, for example, that in the Volta region, you owe the ECG about 17 million. So what do you do
that is the system.
Is it regionally?
That is the treatment plant that serves the whole municipality.
I get it, but I'm trying to find out, when you strike your averages and offset what the difference is, do you do that on a national level? So assuming the water company owed ECG 50 million, but the ECG owed you 60 million. It means that you wouldn't pay to them, but they would rather pay you 10 million Ghana.
Exactly.
The difference.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So is it on a national level or regional?
Yeah, the national level. That's why I said that with our systems, okay, it is paid or it is managed. I didn't use the word pay. I said it is managed at the head office.
Right.
Okay, so that is where we do the offsetting, because then sometimes they owe us, sometimes we owe them. Okay, so that's how things work.
Let's go to the central region. You've been raring to go on the central region.
Yeah.
What is the latest? So you started in other places. Tell us about what you've been able to mop up so far from the mobilization up to this point, and what the plan is for the central region.
Yes, what I can say for now is that things are going very well. Anywhere we visited, people have made payment, and so we expect that it's going to continue as we move on. And like I said, when we're moving on our rounds, we are not going to stop with this exercise until we collect all 800 million cedis, all the Ghana Water Company Limited. So it may not end next week, it may not end a week after, a month after, but until the 800 million cedis is paid. And every month, at the end of every month, we still add on more, because we need to bill our customers and they need to pay. So much bills are out now, and we expect that everybody will pay in addition to arrears, so that we don't build on the 800 million cedis. But I can assure you that everything is moving on very, very well. People are paying the way they should. And especially with the education that is going on, it's making things easier. People are complaining about the economic situation, but then the thing is, you have consumed the water already. People are even complaining of the fact that they do not get regular flow. But at least with the little that you have consumed, that is what we have billed you for, and we need money for it, so that at least we can invest back into the system and then serve you very well. So everything is moving on and quite okay.
Moving on smoothly. Do you have any timelines? You say you're going to recoup every last peso of the 800 million.
Everything.
And of course, even while this drive is going on, more debt is being added on.
So I hope it's really.
What are your timelines? Feasible. What is the plan? Within which period are you hoping to recoup?
We will continue till we collect our monies. We will continue, and we are just adding some human face to it. But at a point, if we realize that people are just being recalcitrant, then we may have to be a bit ruthless by prosecuting people in the law courts, and then they will enable us to retrieve our monies, and whatever means we have to use in retrieving our monies, we will. And I want to let our consumers know that if you do not pay your bills before we come to you, we will disconnect you, and you may have to pay everything in full before, including a reconnection fee before you are reconnected. And so I'll urge everybody, if you're owing the GWCL, please do well, go pay your bills, and then let's live in harmony, let's work together. We want to serve you more than we are doing currently. So we need the little bills that we have sent to you, the little revenue to enable us improve on our services. So we expect everybody to do that.
Let's talk about the punitive measures. For those who simply fail to comply, I mean, over time, who may not show enough commitment. Apart from what you've mentioned, are there any other measures that you use? Are there any other ways? For example, are there any people or entities that you have to cause their arrest at some point in time? Give us the detail.
Yes, those who are involved in some more practices, we call for their arrest as well. Because you can't be owing us and be stealing us. Like bypasses and illegal connections and all that. Because you can't be stealing our water. You are refusing to pay your bill and you are stealing the water in addition. I mean, that is double jeopardy. And we will ensure that the law takes its course. It's actually criminal. You know, stealing is an offense against the state. So if you steal water, it's a crime and you'll be treated as a criminal. So I want our customers to know that this is the situation. Don't involve yourself in any of these more practices. Be patriotic enough. Pay the little that you have to pay to enable the utilities serve you better.
And we do know, I mean, I remember the electricity situation where one entity, because it's a commercial entity, I don't want to mention its name, but they have set up an entire, facility just to bypass the system and enjoy electricity for free, and they were charging huge sums of money. So
I saw.
But you find out people like that. Have you ever done same when it comes to?
Yeah. I mean, people are involved in very complicated illegal connections, and sometimes, if you are not an expert, you wouldn't be able to identify that this is an illegal connection. But thanks to God, we train our people very well, so they are able to identify them, and then we cause the arrest.
Just as with the ECG, though, as we talk about the situation, we oftentimes hear that sometimes your own people are in cahoots with some of these people who are bleeding you dry in terms of funds. What are you doing in that regard? Has it come to your attention? And what are you doing?
Yes. It's an allegation. And,
allegation?
Per our training, and per our policy, if you are found condoning and conniving with a customer to steal water or to deprive the company of the needed revenue.
Or maybe to tweak the meter so that the reading is...
Yes, you are fired immediately. It's outright dismissal. It's outright dismissal, yes. And you wouldn't want to lose your daily bread because of some peanuts. So we don't expect our staff to be involved in that. But occasionally...
Does it end there, though? Outright dismissal? I mean, do you hand them over to the police or something?
We've had occasion of doing that a few times, but I mean, outright dismissal is enough. I mean, if we prosecute the offender, that's the customer, and he mentions you as an accomplice, then you are going to go with him, and then the law will deal with you.
I see.
Yeah.
So to cap off the conversation, considering how important water is to all of us. None of us can deal with not having water. I'd like to find out, before you give your concluding remarks, the whole bit about water availability, the processes of treatment and all of that, and how difficult it has been on the back of the different challenges with Galamsey and the rest. Would you say we are any better off? Are we slightly improving? Has it become worse? Has it become more difficult to treat our water? Where do we find ourselves, and what is your hope, especially tied to the Galamsey menace?
It's a bit difficult answering this question. What happens is that during the rainy season, the river levels are high, so this the situation becomes or the system will not be good for Galamsey to operate effectively. Okay, those who do it off the rivers, okay, and discharge their water into the rivers, okay, are able to work, but those who work on the water bodies are unable to work because of the high levels of the river. And then during the dry season, when the levels go down, that is when it is rife for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's that situation. There's also the situation where when we strike, let's say with the forces, okay, some of them leave the river bodies, and then we see some improvement. So the improvement is on and off. So it becomes a bit difficult to talk about this one. But the thing is, we need to stop it entirely, okay? Because we need good quality raw water to enable us treat the water very well with less chemical, so the production cost will be down for our people. The more turbid the water is, the more expensive the production becomes. Then it impacts on the tariff. Okay, so if we all think that tariffs are going high and we need to reduce it, then let's all educate everybody found within that arena of illegal mining or alluvial mining, so that we will all put an end to it. We'll see improvement in the quality levels, and then we can have quality water at a cheaper cost. The other thing is, it is not only Galamsey or alluvial mining that is affecting the water bodies. Now we see even aquaculture on the Volta Lake. And it is terrible now. Every nautical mile on the Volta Lake, you will see several fish farms, and it's affecting the quality of the water.
And some of them diverts the water sources, right?
Exactly. We are seeing industrial effluent in the water now, because some industries assume that they find themselves in a place where there isn't any river body, but they forget that every drainage ends up in a river, okay, or the sea. So if you discharge your effluent without treating it into any drainage, it will end up and pollute the river. Now, farming activities is also another challenge, and so people are cutting off trees that are giving our water bodies some cover, so that the rate of evaporation will reduce. So you cut down the trees, and then now you expose the river body, and then rate of evaporation is high, and then you till the soil close to the river body. Anytime there rains, it washes off the topsoil to silt the river body. Okay, so it is all affecting the volumes of water in our rivers. It's affecting the quality of the water and all that. With aquaculture, the feed that they use for the fishes, okay, enriches the alluvial soil, so it also aids the rapid growth of aquatic weeds. Okay, so it changes the aquatic weeds, change the taste of the water, they change the color of the water, and all that. And so it affects us. For instance, we have 3 treatment plants on the Volta River. But the Volta River used to be the less polluted river body in our country. Now it's being polluted. Formerly, even in Kong, we were not using much chemicals. But you see that you see the trend in the last 6 to 10 years, that there's a steady rise in the consumption of chemicals in the treatment plants on the Volta Lake. So it's also cause for alarm, because what we do is to balance off with the cost of production in these areas as against cost of production in areas where they are heavily polluted. But now, if these areas are also being polluted, then it means that cost of production will go very, very high, and in the future it will affect us negatively. So it's important that we look at pollution of our river bodies in total, so that we put an end to it. Other than that, every time tariffs will keep going, we'll keep complaining, and there's nothing we can do about it, because every input in water production is imported into the system.
Right.
So if we have to use more of our inputs just to get good quality water for our people, it means that we're spending more in the production of the water. So it's essential that we manage it very well. Now you can look at also the rate at which the dollar is increasing as against the cedi. So if, for instance, everything, as I said, is imported, and we have to use more of them, it means that we have to be buying more dollars to import the same quantity of chemicals
or logistics that you use.
So in all ways, it affects the cost of production. So it's very essential that we manage our water bodies very well. That we have control over as a country, okay, but we don't have control over the inputs, okay. So if we can control the pollution of our river bodies, so that we can use less chemicals, then cost of production could go down, and then we all should be happy when it so happens.
Just to wrap up the conversation, this is a security matter, and I'll tie it into another security matter. But water is life. Yeah. Without it, I mean, can you imagine what would happen if we didn't have access to water and people got plaintive? And you can imagine the chaos that would ensue. Exactly. If people didn't have water to bath, water to drink, first of all. I mean, so that is a security-related matter. I just want to wrap the conversation picking your thoughts on the second matter we're going to be discussing after you're gone. Also security-related. You've seen the footage, I'm sure, from what happened in Axim recently, the police officers who assaulted by alleged galanciers.
Yes. That was bad.
Then we saw another one where some police officers who supposedly were dealing with some drug dealers were beaten to a pulp, one with a pestle, like the one you used to pound fufu and the others. It was terrible. It was gory. I couldn't watch it twice. Then we've seen the latest one in, let me just get the name of the place right, because I don't want to, that is Wano Akotoso, where over a grass cutter, a rat. There was an issue, a police officer, at least one of those tied to their group, was apprehended, was being strangled and all of that. What do you, I mean, in the past, like I interacted with Suleiman Abrahima this morning, he said it would happen, but the frequency of it that we are seeing now is troublesome. I just want you to deliver your concluding comments, but rope in what you see as far as security is concerned in that regard.
Yeah, so when it comes to water security, I think that it's essential that we manage the pollution of our river bodies very well. There has been research that has said that if the rate of the pollution of our river bodies is to continue the way it is now, it will get to a point where our river bodies will go extinct, and we may have to import water into the system before we can get water to consume. And
are we on that trajectory already?
Yes, because apart from that, there's also climate change. Okay, so now we are unable to predict when there'll be rains and when there wouldn't be rains. Last year and this year, most of our treatment plants that have never shut down had to shut down because the rivers dried up. And some of them, turbidity was so high that we had to shut it down. So we experienced that in Dabuase last year. This year we have experienced it. For instance, in Birim, in Chebi, Osino, and all that, for the past 10, 15 years, every year we have had to shut down for 2-3 months. Okay.
Wow.
So if it has to continue like that,
used not to be the case.
Not at all. Okay. So then, with a discussion in security, it means that if you are unable to manage these things very well, if you are unable to secure our water bodies very well, then we could face that challenge. And if it so happens, I don't think posterity will be happy with that, because Ghana has been really endowed with river bodies. Looking at nations of African nations surrounding us. We have really been endowed. God has been good to us by giving us what we have. But if you are unable to manage it very well, to the extent that they will go extinct, or to the extent that we can't even treat for consumption, then I think generations yet unborn will not be happy with this generation at all. And so I think we should really seriously work at it. We shouldn't take it for granted. I mean, I'm sure people just assume that, no, these people are just talking. But if you experience it, then you realize that no. I mean, if you go to the Wasi and see a treatment plant that is supposed to treat over 11 million gallons of water a day and is unable to treat even 2 million gallons, okay, to the extent that we have to shut it down and there's no water at all. I mean, if you can imagine, for a whole month, we have service equipment and everything, it is there, and we are not producing. If you ask yourself, what are the people going to consume? You know, and there's nothing we can do about it. You know, that area is also saline. You know, the coastline or the southern section of Ghana, we have the aquifers to be saline. So if you drill a borehole, there's the likelihood for you to get this thing, salty water, is very high. So then it's also another treatment process. Okay, and for boreholes, if it's not for your home, then it becomes something else. So we shouldn't take those things for granted. I mean, if we talk about those things, we mean it and we are serious. And we've shown the videos on TV and all that. As to whether the people are paying attention or not, we are unable to tell.
We have to go. Time is not our friend. But something just hit me. I just want some clarity on it. Last year, there were some rains that flooded some of your facilities. And we're told that some of your equipment had likely been destroyed. It would cost millions of dollars. Can you give us a quick update on that?
Yes, we've managed to put all of them back into operation.
Did you have to get new equipment, or you were able to refurbish?
No, we refurbished some, and some we needed to buy new ones. For instance, in Secheheman, for instance, 3 pumps just went off. They all just broke down, and you had to import new ones. With other areas, we had to refurbish them because the parts were available, so we just had to refurbish them and all that. And then we also had to put in measures to ensure that there's no reoccurrence. But like I said, climate change is such that we are
unable to predict.
We are unable to predict. Okay, so when you don't expect rains, they just come and they come very heavy. And then what you don't expect to happen.
About how much did it cost? Can you give us an approximate?
It will be very difficult for me to mention a figure now.
Right,
I understand. But our pumps are customized and they're very expensive. I mean, when you see the sizes of pumps and the way they are, I mean, you can even just you can tell that they're very expensive. They cost millions of dollars. So if they just have to go down just because somebody is trying to extract some small resource from water, then you can imagine the enormity of the challenge that we are faced with.
Mr. Marty, we're grateful that you've spent the time having breakfast with us, a breakfast of information sharing.
I'm grateful because we find ourselves in a very terrible situation. So for me to have the opportunity to speak to your audience, I'm happy about it. And I just want everybody to know that the situation in which we find ourselves now isn't a joke. And so the little that you have to pay, water is inexpensive or water is inexpensive or not expensive. So please do with the little that you have to pay. I mean, people even get, let's say, 50 cedis, 100 cedis at the end of the month. You understand? But it is the little that we collect that we put together and we are able to change into dollars to import our chemicals. So don't assume that, okay, this month my bill is just 100 cedis. Let me just hold on till next month or 2 months after before I pay. No, please pay the little now. We need it. We need it. Okay, and this time there'll be no mercy at all. We won't come to your premises and be listening to stories.
Right.
So just do what you have to do, and then let's all live in harmony.
Stanley Mate is communications manager with the Ghana Water Company Limited, and he joined us for a conversation. Right before we get into our next conversation focusing on security matters, since we've been talking about water, we know water is life, and Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. Now, they have the perfect sizes, 330 ml, 500 ml. 330 ml, you can put it in your children's kits as they go to school. If you're a heavy drinker, 750 ml, or if you're like me, you always want more, 1.5 liters, and you're good to go for the day. But if you're in your office or home and you want something bigger, they also have 19-liter jar bottles for your office or your home. So all you need to do now is stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake today. And do remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. That, for me, is heartwarming. They're ensuring that our brothers, our sisters who can't afford that treatment can get it at our health facilities. And it's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just reach them on 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. When we return, we're going to be talking about attacks on security operatives, the spate of violence, what exactly is happening, and how we can stem the tide of same. All of that up next on the AM Show. Do stay. Welcome back on the AM Show. Like you can see behind me, we're talking security now. And without that, there's nowhere, which way would our country be headed? So we're talking security on the back of the latest attacks on security operatives and all the different dynamics surrounding those issues. And we have a crack team joining us for that discussion. We'll be engaging Adib Sani, a security analyst. We'll also have Justin Poivra Terewaja, a legal practitioner, as well as Peter Lansheni Tobu, Member of Parliament for Wa West and a former Superintendent of Police, Superintendent retired Tobu. I just want to say a very good morning to all of you. Adib, Justin, Peter, for those of you who are aboard, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
All right. So I'll start with you, Supo. On the back of the latest developments, you have been in the service, in the police service, and you've seen the recent spate of attacks. Interestingly, what we saw in Axim, what we've seen, I just forget the location, but with those other police officers in a drug-related matter who were assaulted, one beaten with a pestle and all of that. And then the latest one, which has to do with that officer who was nearly strangled in that latest video. What do you make of these developments? What does it mean to our security network?
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers.
Mm-hmm. I would appreciate it if you could speak up a little bit. I'm struggling to hear you.
Thank you. Security, we say, is a shared responsibility. The collective nature. Can you hear me clear now? Can you hear me clear now?
I can hear you. It's still a little, but you go ahead. I'll strain to hear.
The collective nature of security requires deeper understanding by both the practitioners and those who are the beneficiaries of this practice. Police public relations is a very important area for us to look at as a country if we want to enjoy security under our democratic dispensation. Because a strong police organization actually emboldens our democratic credentials. A weak police institution makes democracy a joke, because we're talking about respect for the rights of the citizen. We're talking about professionalism of the police officer. We're talking about meeting public expectations. What is happening of late? Probably it used to happen, but because of the power of social media, within a split second, whatever happened in the darkest corner of this country will become news and become public. That notwithstanding, it is happening. And because it is happening, we should ask ourselves, why are the people who are sworn to protect the citizens being attacked? I have taken an oath to serve you. I've taken an oath to provide you security. Why are you attacking me? The second question should be, you are taking an oath to serve them. Why are you exploiting them? Why are you providing substandard service? So both from the public side and from the police side, what are the shortcomings that are gradually probably creating this mistrust? And it is just this mistrust that comes about, and all of a sudden the public do not trust the police. And if the public do not trust the police, that public confidence will wane, and the police officer will be hanging in the area of attempting to be professional. What we've seen over the past days, the fact is, if you look at the National Security Strategy document, it is clearly stated in there that the greatest threat to our national security is youth unemployment. Many of these frustrated young people with all the degrees that we think they should have to make life a wet living are walking around our streets without hope. And the sense of hopelessness is just a recipe for anger. So when you find a police officer who tries to do his professional job against a young man who thinks that there's nothing in this country for him, he's so hopeless in his heart, the reaction will always be a negative one. And this banter between police and the public is a banter that is not sustainable if we love our democracy. It's a banter that we should all rise up to say it is wrong, wrong on the side of the police, wrong on the side of the citizens. We need responsible citizens. We need professional police institutions. So sometimes we point the finger at the police alone. Why will a policeman be kneeling down to plead that he should not be attacked, he should not be killed, when he's in uniform? It is training, and you need to be smart. The best principle is survival. You need to survive to be able to serve. When we talk about protection of life and property, your own life is first. You've got to protect your own life before you protect the lives of others. So when you find yourself in a very uncompromising situation and think that I can be killed, I can be lynched, use your common sense. The bullet is not an answer to matters of insecurity. Peace do not come as a result of the use of bullets. Peace comes as a result of us join and understanding that you have a role to play, I have a role to play, and we have a constitution that is underscoring every activity in this country. When we respect our constitution and we allow roles by various institutions to be clearly defined and played out well, the civilian will know that I have rights enshrined in the constitution. And if the police officer offends me, there are procedures that I can follow to ensure that this police officer is punished. Are we fast enough to show to the public that when a police officer is wrong and investigations are conducted, the results are made public for us to know the outcome? Are we building confidence in the public? And you are the police officer as well. You've gone into an environment where you think that, no, I have to do my work. Unprofessionalism comes out when you begin not to follow the rules. And there you attract the anger of the public. May I say, let this suffice for my first comments.
Now, taking a cue from what you've said, you've spoken about police officers kneeling, begging for their very lives. But in the spate of just a week and a half or two, we've seen it happen twice. What does that tell you?
It tells us that we have a problem as a country. Either we have a very impatient population, we have a very frustrated, teeming youth, unemployed, angry at all times, ready to attack. It tells us that probably our national security color could be moving from green to yellow. It tells us, as a people, that we should begin to look at police-public relations. That as the police institution grows in numbers, heading towards 50,000, and as the citizens become more complicated and sophisticated, we need to think differently. The 1990 policing style cannot be used in 2023. And we need to invest heavily in police training. We need to invest heavily in police recruitment and positive vetting. And we need to get the best in there. You see, when we want to get the best security for this country, we need to put our best in there. And all of us, as a people, if we believe that security is paramount, because without security we can't have development, let's all agree that what is wrong in the area of security recruitment is wrong, and let's stop it. And let's put our best brains, best limbs in the security sector, so that when you find them out there, as weak as you may look, as exposed as you may look, the sight of a police officer alone should give you hope, because we have some of our best hands in uniform. Until we get there, we have a collective responsibility to speak out and do what is right.
And while that gets rather problematic, in the past, you would see a police officer and the thought of even attacking such a person would be taboo in your mind, not to talk of actually actuating that or, actualizing it, bringing it to bear. We're seeing it happen. In recent times, we've seen the military also engage in some things. Credibility-wise, not just within the police, but even extending it to the military, is something being lost? What is the trigger, do you think? Because you've said a number of things, but what do you think is the fundamental trigger that is causing this?
Let me be honest with you. If we do politics with security, we get what we are getting. This build-up of unprofessionalism, build-up of the emboldening of the citizens to be attacking police, didn't just happen. I remember somewhere in 1996, 98, when the late Peter Nanfuri was the Inspector General of Police. May he so rest in peace. Two young men, Ninja and his brother, were killed in Abilikuma. You saw the police reaction. These young men were killed by civilians. And it all had to do with land-related matters. Do we have the full investigative report made public? What were the police officers doing there? Were they really there to serve? Why did they kill them? Would any killing ever be justified under our laws? No. But how were they emboldened to do such a dastardly act? Did we take it as a measure to investigate and use it as just a tip of the iceberg to find out how can we prevent this? People attacking police stations, attacking men and women in uniform, when in fact they had sworn an oath to serve them. The question is, are you really serving when you find yourself in that uniform? On the other side, are your expectations being met by the people who are in uniform to give you the security and protection? Are they exploiting you? Are they becoming unprofessional? Are they abusing their authority? Finally, they become the enemy and not the friend. Because when you go to every police station, it is written there, every caller is a potential ally. So if every caller is a potential ally, the duty of a police officer is to respect the rights of every citizen. The police do not have the right to punish. And that is why in the criminal justice system, the police activate the criminal justice system. And the courts pick it up. If the court pick it up and you are finally convicted, you serve in prison. But the policeman do not have the right to punish. The police only uses force, and say minimum force, when it is required. And that force must be proportional to the level of resistance. Any force that is unproportional, killing a fly with a sledgehammer, you are going to attract public uproar. And gradually people will begin to think that you are abusing your power and punishing the very people you have been sworn to serve. That becomes antagonistic. And that relationship is not the relationship we want between the police and the public. So this is actually the cat and mouse issue. I'm looking at when NCC will open its game so that we will have responsible citizens, citizens that are conscious of their own rights, citizens that know what to do if their rights are being violated. And we have professional police officers who take an oath to say, I want to serve Mother Ghana, even at the peril of my life.
To wrap up the conversation, just to share your final thoughts, I know you're also concerned about what is happening in the Boku area. You can make that one of your final comments. But what do we do in this particular situation as far as our security operatives are concerned? What do we do from the end of the Ghana Police Service? What do we do from the end of the civilian population? How can the NCCE, for example, step in education-wise? And then maybe, since you still fall in that catchment area, you can share with me what maybe you think are the ways forward in the Boku situation.
Thank you very much. As a member of parliament representing the people of Huawei, I talk about the people. What should I do to have very responsible citizens in West? My role as a member of parliament is to let them appreciate the fact that anytime you see somebody in uniform, that person is not an enemy. That person is out there to provide you security and protect you. So if you see the person in uniform behaving otherwise, I've said that it is not the uniform that makes the officer. The uniform is symbolic of authority, but it is the training that makes the officer. So, and by virtue of your training, your actions will show professionalism. If your actions are not showing professionalism, let the citizen know the right steps to take. It is not about molesting the police officer or lynching the police officer. I also want to say that the Ghana Police Service should at least begin to look at their deployment plan. They should review deployment concepts. I want to introduce what we call the buddy system. The
what system?
Buddy system.
Buddy?
Yes.
As in B-U-D-D-Y?
Yes.
Okay.
The buddy system says, do not deploy a single police officer anywhere. At least there should be two. And those two people deployed to a particular duty point should have a link to a rapid deployment unit. That in case of any attack and their lives are in danger and they are overwhelmed with numbers and they cannot survive, within 10 minutes, the rapid response unit should appear on the scene. And if the rapid response unit fails and it becomes chaotic, you stretch your hand to invite the Ghana Armed Forces. That is the last phase of the strata. So if we review our deployment plan and ensure that police officers on duty know they have a backup, and that backup is just 10 minutes away, and the civilians know if you touch this man standing here, you are touching the whole of the Ghana Police Service, and in 10 minutes they will descend on you. Some level of sanity will be returning to our security institutions. We should also look at establishing the Independent Police Complaint Commission. Should the police continue to investigate themselves? They are doing very well, but do we believe in the report? There is a lot of mistrust. There is a lot of suspicion. But if it's an independent body that investigates matters of this nature, I'm sure that all of us will come to appreciate the fact that the report can actually build models for training. The final one I would say is that let's strengthen the police standard, the Police Standards Bureau. The Professional Standards Bureau of the Police Service is an internal mechanism that will ensure that discipline is maintained. Let's strengthen the Professional Standards Bureau. As for recruitment, as I've always said, let's go back to the basics. You cannot get people uniform to wear when they have not gone through positive vetting. It will come back to bite us. There are many people in the uniform and they are not supposed to be in uniform, but they are looking for a job to earn a salary at the end of the month. The passion to wear the uniform is not there. They want salary, and in fact, they want money. If you are looking for money and you find yourself wearing any of the uniforms, you are out there for danger. And you are actually a danger to the security system that you serve. And that is not the right thing to do. We should be bold as a country. If the young people are not getting jobs, let's be innovative to create jobs. But if we think that the dumping ground is men and women, is the place for men and women in uniform, we will dump dangerous materials. And when they wear the uniform and come out, they will come back to bite us.
Supo, we're grateful that you've taken the time to join this conversation. I just thought of this.
Let me just make a single statement about Boko and we make progress.
Go ahead.
Great. Boko has become chronic, unfortunately. And over 10 years, I have repeated this statement. Send 10,000 soldiers to Boko, 10,000 police officers to Boko. That is not a panacea. That cannot be a solution. We can be doubling up the numbers. The police and soldiers are in Boko to provide an enabling environment for a solution to be found. So if we fail as a country to find a solution, don't blame the soldiers and don't blame the police. Their presence there is to create a kind of buffer for sanity to return periodically so that we, the country, leadership of this country, will dig deeper to find a lasting solution to the Boko crisis. It is embarrassing to the image of this country, and I think that it's embarrassing to the people of Boko themselves. And as a Northerner, as I speak to you, sometimes I feel embarrassed, as if we can't resolve that problem. There is no problem that cannot be resolved. We've gone around this world in very petty conflict situations. Today they are back to normal. The countries are picking up. What is it that in Boko that we cannot be frank? If truth stands and justice prevails, the Boko conflict will become a thing of the past. Let's not rely on soldiers and police to provide us a solution. The solution do not lie within their confines. It lies within politics and civil society. The police and soldiers who provided that space. Let's take advantage of the space that is provided and find a lasting solution. But I'm putting something together to address to the president. We need to bring a Speaker of Parliament involved in this matter. I think that he has the credibility, he has the neutrality or the impartiality, he has the experience to be able to look at his own brothers in the face and say, let's sit down and look at what we can do. This is long too much. From 1958, we have never stopped fighting. When will it end? It must end, and it must end now.
Super, we're grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. And that is Superintendent Lanshene Tobu, Member of Parliament for Wa West. He has been with the police service. Let's bring in Adib Sani now, a security analyst. And because we had to let go of Lanshene Tobu, I couldn't run this by him. He had to go. But I saw a comment on our Facebook live stream. He is saying civilians should use the security procedure, but here is the case where when you take your issues through the right channels, nothing is done. I want you to look at all of these occurrences. We've had cause to deliberate with you on some of them. Now this has happened. What is the trigger? Do you agree with Lanshene Tobu? And how do you react to those who say that when you go through the right channels in dealing with your issues, the police does nothing about it, and so now the result is to these other extreme measures? Adib.
Well, I think it is a plethora of issues that comes together to form a cocktail that we are seeing blow out in our face. It is safe to say that there appears to be a breakdown in trust, confidence, and communication between civilians on one hand and the police. And that, I must say, is disturbing. However, one of the reasons we've gotten to where we are today is the lack of confidence in the justice system. Because in the past, there's been a number of cases in which police have allegedly misconducted themselves. They've behaved unprofessionally. And by the way, that is no justification for any act of aggression against a police officer. I'm not seeking to rationalize any such behavior, but it's just to put our discussion in context. And when they go through the so-called right process of procedure, nothing comes out of it. And I can give you a number of cases. One of it involved a gentleman who was coming from a nature's call in Kumasi, to be specific, Kofum, some years ago. I understand there were some skirmishes. However, he had nothing to do with what was going on. He was allegedly beaten by the police. He died. And according to the autopsy report, he died of a heart attack, and that was the end of the case. Now we can talk about the multimedia journalist, Latif, who was allegedly assaulted. To date, we are yet to find closure to the issue. And it's quite obvious that nobody is ready for a settlement. They wanted to go through the process. So be it. There was also a case involving some Ghanaian Times reporters, which included a pregnant woman.
I remember.
Good. They were allegedly assaulted. And not too long ago, somewhere, I think in the Western or Central region, a journalist went to take pictures of some accidented cars parked at the police station. And he was also allegedly attacked. Then there was this other one in which a journalistic instinct kicked in, and he took picture of a man in cuffs eating at a chop bar. And he was also assaulted. So you see, all of these without repercussions, without accountability, is what is making a lot of Ghanaians feel that, hey, we cannot trust the police to investigate the police. And I couldn't have agreed with Lanshene more. We need an independent police complaints commission if really we are committed to restoring that trust and confidence the people have in the police. Because quite obviously, what is happening now is as a result of the breakdown of that trust and confidence. And in what we call the 9 pillar principles of modern day policing, Supo has touched a bit of it, which was propounded by Sir Robert Peel, the founder of metropolitan policing and who is best known as the father of modern day policing. He propounded some 9 theories about how policing should be done. And the central theme for those 9 theories is based on the fact that without the civilians, the police cannot fulfill their mandate. And the civilians should see the police as having been authorized by them to do a job on their behalf. And it also categorically states that the more force you use in certain situations, the less you're likely to have the people cooperate with you. So as much as the police can, they should use less force, which, by the way, should be proportional to the threats and not overly exaggerated, and you would have the people cooperate with you. But today, is that what we see? And I must say that is really disturbing, because if care is not taken, very soon we might be talking about a life lost as a result of this breakdown. So this is time for us to work to improve the status quo. If not, we might be heading towards a very dangerous path.
Just hold for me. Let me bring in Justin Teriwaja. He's a legal practitioner. He joins us via the phone lines. Mr. Teriwaja, so what do you make of these latest happenings from the legal angle and from the security standpoint? Are we losing the plot?
From the legal angle, in fact, the two of them have taken the wind out of my sails. Hadith Sani just mentioned the issue of lack of confidence in the criminal justice delivery system, and also lack of confidence in holding police accountable, and that's what he both of them talked about, the issue of the independent police complaints.
So literally, they have stressed those important points, but open our eyes, per the law. These actions of civilians, we know that when these people who are service operatives wear their clothes, it appears, if I hear correctly. Do we have Justin? It appears we've lost Mr. Teriwaja there. I wanted to find out from the legal end of things what power these people are clothed with and how civilians, per the law, should interact with them, and whether, these actions taken in the right context, what measures, how they can be dealt with. But let me come back to Adib Sani. So we've got to this point where it appears we're losing our respect for the black or the navy blue of our police officers, and even in some instances, the camouflage of our military officials. I remember, I've forgotten whether it's Suleimana Brahima this morning or Lanshini Tobu, who spoke about the fact that the political element, I think it was Suleimana Brahima, the political elements in there are becoming problematic to deal with because there's a lot of infiltration from the parties in power. How do we deal with that situation? We keep talking about it. Is there any end in sight?
Yeah, I think Honorable Lanshini touched on that too. You see, we need to unmarry, so to speak, politics from mainstream security, because the moment you bring it together, you dilute, you compromise security in the first place. And I think this draws us back to the issue of recruitment. Unfortunately, it is alleged that some people are able to get through just by virtue of their membership of a political party. And this, I must say, cuts across the political divide. The protocol list is destroying the police service. The protocol list is destroying the police service, and it is compromising them. And until we address that, and this is even on the back of what happened some few years ago, in which some persons were recruited, they were made to go through the process only for us to get to know, just as they were about to finish the training, that the certificates they provided were not authentic. So, Benjamin, if you are not able to do something as basic as confirming the authenticity of certificates provided by potential recruits, how much more can you do? Do we do backgrounds, their criminal history? Do we take the trouble to go back to their alma mater and ascertain what they are.
But to be fair on that angle, you know that many of our tertiary institutions, for example, they would take you on your word, accept you based on what evidence you've presented. But like the University of Ghana, my alma mater, over the coming months or over the months when you've been enrolled, they'll still be checking. And when they find out that your documentation is incorrect, then they suspend your admission and the right processes follow. You get it? Isn't it saying that is happening in the police? Is that wrong?
No, what I'm saying is before the recruitment happens, all of these should be done. For crying out loud, this is a security service. Okay, if care is not taken, you recruit the wrong persons who might end up giving critical information to the criminals. All right, so there is no room for mediocrity. All of these should be satisfactory, including the backgrounds. What he used to be in the past. Was he a petty criminal? Was he a pickpocket? All of these. But these days, with just a protocol, what we call it, notes, people are able to get through. And that, I must say, is worrying. And this is what is adding to, because you are growing up in a community with certain individuals, you know each other's attitudes, you know the kind of person A is. The next minute, A is a police officer. What would your perceptions be about the police? Okay, so I think for us to be able to address this, we have to be holistic, we have to be multidimensional, and we need to look at it from the short to medium to long term to be able to deal with it. The training regime also comes to play, Akakpo. What training do we give them? Is it all about the guns? Can the police fulfill their mandate effectively without holding a rifle? What democratic police principles do we instill in these officers? I think this is important, because if you have a police institution without accountability, you're bound to have resistance invariably from the civilian population. So these are very important issues we really need to take into consideration. The issue of sensitivity training as well, you know, when the way you are even stopped in traffic, my friend, stop, you know, on top of his voice. When you go to other jurisdictions, if you are stopped, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, vehicle registration and license. And he runs it through the system. If you have no issue, have a nice day. But in Ghana, even if you ask questions, it becomes a problem because you think you know too much. And sometimes you are hauled to the police station and they ensure that they waste the whole day. I'm not opining that all officers are like that. We have refined, very committed, selfless, patriotic officers who want to do their work, okay? But they find themselves within a certain body that is not encouraging enough to get them to do their work. As a result, you have cases of good officers go bad because they found themselves within that bad group. And that is also a major cause for concern.
Hold for me, Adib. Let me bring in Mr. Terry Waja. The connection, unfortunately, failed earlier. Our apologies for that. I was posing the question about the legal dimensions of the power that these security operatives are clothed with and how civilians, per the law, should engage them. I just want you to educate all of us so that people know, in dealing with security operatives, this is what we should do. And what should the security operatives also do in dealing with civilians?
Okay, thank you. It's pretty much a straightforward matter. The police are empowered by law to stop people, arrest, search, and prosecute if they get evidence that the person or persons have committed any crime. And so there's the need for the public to cooperate with them. In fact, resisting arrest in itself is even a crime, assuming that you are innocent. You are squeaky clean and you believe you have done nothing. Even if the police stop you and they arrest you and you believe you are innocent, you still have to comply. So resisting to the point of trying to seize the weapon of a police officer, is something to the limit. It's just unacceptable. And to that extent, if a policeman ends up hurting you, you have caused it, because then you are resisting arrest in actual fact. And what I saw there, that the policeman was virtually being, so many people setting upon him and almost to the point of strangling him, is just unacceptable. And I think it is a matter that borders on ignorance of those people, because this was a situation where they were being filmed on camera, and yet they persisted in doing what they were doing with careless abandon. And when I saw videos like that, I was like, no, these people are clearly ignorant as to where their rights begin and end. And the other video I saw was about police assistants being lashed with sticks and beaten in all directions to solve. And you know, this is not a policeman strictly speaking. Now, you widen the lens, and you see that they even extend it to the military officers. We have Major Mahama, who is dead now, may his soul rest in peace. We have the incident at Ashaiman, and you see that it's a trend in the country for now that people take the law into their own hands. The other speakers have talked about the confidence in the police, but I think it goes beyond confidence in the police, because if you look at it, it's not limited to police-civilian interaction. It goes beyond that, and there are even instances of lynching of ordinary people on the streets. You know, so I think it is a canker in our society that needs to be looked at. Education, yes, and in all of this, we don't even hear the institution of state by the Constitution that is in charge of educating the masses on issues like that. That is NCCE. Where is NCCE in this? Because they are supposed to be educating the masses on some of these things. We don't see them. I understand they are not well resourced, but what at all are they doing in issues like that? Because education of the public is important in some of these, so they know where their rights begin and where their rights end, and how to interact with the police and other security services in this. So even the military, sometimes when people speak, they are like, okay, have confidence in the military, but not the police. But the military are not left out, as we are seeing now. So it goes beyond the police, and I think we should widen our lenses and look at the real problem. For me, I think one, ignorance and illiteracy are some of the factors, and then secondly, confidence in the justice delivery system, be it reporting police and other security services for administrative disciplinary trial or investigation leading to trial and accountability. How well is that being done? There's a question mark there, and that is where there's talk of the Independent Police Complaints Commission. But I think even if we go further, it should go beyond that to police governance. Police governance in the sense of who are the commanders at the various level, at the station level, where you have a station, an inspector who is in charge of the station officer at the police station. You move to the district level, you have the district commander, the divisional, the regional, and up to IGP. Now, if you look at it from that angle, you see that it is so much interfered with by people who wield power in various ways. So sometimes the police, yes, we can blame them, but they may arrest someone, investigations are going on, and then calls by powerful people are made to thwart investigations or to influence investigations negatively. And policemen who do not play along sometimes are punished. I mean, these are facts. They may be punished by negative transfers in various ways. Some are even taken off cases. I'm a former policeman, and I hear stories. You know, so some of these things further undermine confidence in the police. So to what extent are we ready to educate the public and let them understand their rights when they deal with the security services, and even when they deal with ordinary citizens? And then when cases are taken up by the police, how professionally are these cases investigated and handled to the point of prosecution, even in court, and accountability for breaches of the law? You know, and that is where I think we have a big problem in this country, until we really look ourselves in the mirror and look at the issue of rule of law. Where are we found wanting? And where are the weak links in our justice delivery system that we need to plug? We are going nowhere. Until we do that, we are not going anywhere.
Until we do that, we're going nowhere. I'll come to you for your final comments about those loopholes and what can be done about them and how we can get somewhere from where we are now, which according to you is a place where we're not going anywhere. But I'll come back to you, Adib. So we've enumerated part of the problems, not all of them, but a lot of them. What then is the way forward to stem the tide of this? Because we saw Axim. We saw the other one where these police assistants were being beaten mercilessly. Now we've seen another incident where a police officer is being strangled. We shouldn't wait for it to happen again. What do we do? How do we forestall similar happenings? Moving on.
Well, first of all, I think we need to build institutional capacity to advance the rule of law. A lot of this is as a result of impunity. There's too much impunity in the system. I mean, people do as they wish and are left off the hook. But if we have the right institutions who have the capacity and the capability to advance the rule of law, I think that helps. And that should work hand in hand with the education bit of it for people to understand the nuances. But if people understand and test the systems and the systems don't work, then you're back to square zero. So I think this should work hand in hand. The training regime is also extremely important. We keep talking about democratic policing. To what extent is our policing democratic? And the one surest way to achieve that is through the training regime, sensitivity training, how to relate with the communities, and that should tie into community outreach. I mean, sometimes you see police officers patrolling in their pickup trucks. They are near you, yet they are far away from you. So we need to bring policing to the doorsteps of the people. They have to walk on foot, knock on doors, on businesses, ask people if they are okay, what their menacing security challenges are, and what the police can do to improve their services. Let's have that communication channel in which people can easily reach out to the police to discuss everyday issues, including how the people themselves can help the police. And this also ties us down to another issue of neighborhood watch. To improve community security, there are some neighborhoods, such as Tessalon, Kwashiman, La Paz, Fadama, who have brought themselves together and formed a very robust neighborhood watch. I met them, just that they lack the resources, and they've been working closely with the police. And they would be the conduit between the civilians and the police, and that would definitely foster that unity, that trust and confidence between the two separate entities going forward. But generally, we need to improve accountability, and I still insist the need for the establishment of the Independent Police Complaints Commission if really we are committed to dealing with this situation once and for all.
Adib Sani, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. We're grateful, sir. He is a security analyst. I'll take your final words, sir. Justin.
Okay. Yeah, my final words are these. How can we insulate the police from untoward interference in the performance of their work to ensure that rule of law will prevail? That is the big question for us. Okay. It is because people believe that, or people have the perception that if they are patient and will go through the motions with the system, they may not get what they want. And that is why they will lynch other people on the streets. They will lynch even to the point of lynching Major Mahama, and not only the police. So then the issue is, education is one, but apart from education, the education must be reinforced by a system that people can have confidence in. And what we have now is a system where there is so much influence peddling, to the point of the influence peddling influencing who even gets to become a policeman. And so square pegs are put in round holes, all the way up to even police commanders. So to what extent can we as a society prevent this from continuing? If we can nip this in the bud, we should not be having this discussion. We should rather be talking about police using their powers beyond what is permitted by law, like you see in advanced democracies, that people cry foul when the police exceed their limits. We should not have a situation where ordinary people turn on the police, and then the police are now being victimized by ordinary people. It's like a rat chasing a cat. I mean, this shouldn't happen. So we should be able to elevate our police to a certain pedestal where it commands respect, and the respect is reinforced by the structure in which the police operates, and then backed by education. And I think this is where our NCC should be resourced and made to take the front seat, because I don't see them at all. We only hear once in a while somebody is appointed to NCC, and that's all. And that's news flash. That's all. You don't hear anything about their activities until another time there's an appointment made there. So we really have to look at ourselves in the mirror,
right,
find out where our problems are, and then solve them as a people. Else, all of this will just be a talk shop, and we keep talking every now and then. I remember when Honorable Peter Tobu was talking about, he went all the way back to the 1990s. So these are the current problems. They keep coming. People attack the police. We talk, we go to sleep, and then it comes again. It cycles out, and it doesn't help.
Justin, thank you so much for having joined the conversation, and we're grateful for your time, sir. That is Justin Poivra Terewaja. He's a legal practitioner. So we've had on this conversation, we've had Superintendent Peter Lansheni Tobu, retired, of course, Member of Parliament for Wawes. We also had Adib Sani, a security analyst, and Justin Poivra Terewaja, a legal practitioner. Hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation, but it's an eye-opener for all of us, and I hope we'll all take stock of what we have to do, whether you're in uniform as a police officer or other official of state, or you're a civilian. We all have to play our role to safeguard the security we enjoy in Ghana. Well, coming up next, today being a Monday, as promised, we're hitting the streets, we're hitting the office of Cecil Gabra. It's all about Drive Safe up next on the AM show. And after that, when we return into the studio, we'll be getting interactive with you. It's another beautiful opportunity, and this is Drive Safe. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I am back at Top Tech Transport and Logistics, and this is where you really need to come if you want to know how to drive properly and do the right thing on the road and save your life as well as that of other motorists. Thank you for joining us. Now today, we're going to be talking about night driving, yes, but with a different dynamic. It is raining. Extreme weather conditions while you're driving at night. Driving at night already is problematic. Throw in other conditions and it becomes chaotic if you are not careful. How do you manage the situation? Before I get to Mr. Gabra though, let's take a quick look at this signal. So you think you know, but do you know? So you've seen that signal and you've seen the different answers. Which answer do you think it is? Curious, huh? So we'll find out at the end of this segment. But let me say hello to Mr. Cecil Gabra. Thank you once more for joining us.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Great. Now, night driving is the conversation we just had. And we're now throwing in, let's say, a spanner in the wheel. You're driving at night, you're already struggling like those of us with 4 eyes. And there are extreme weather conditions. Let's say it is raining heavily. What changes? What should you do? How should you react as you drive?
Thank you so much. But then, first of all, do you have very good wipers? That is what you have to ask yourself. Wipers in Africa can only be used for a period of 3 months because of the scorching sun. Rubber is not permanent. Rubber doesn't last. And therefore, you cannot use rubber in this hot scorching sun for more than 3 months. So first of all, you need to get a good wiper, and that is why you should always have a set of wiper blades in your vehicle. Now, as soon as you start putting on your...
So basically, just as you have spare tires, you should have spare
wiper blades. Yes. Now, when you put on your wiper blades and you hear that squeaking sound,
it means it's come to the end of its lifespan.
That gives you that warning that very soon it's going to go away from, the system that holds the blade.
Right.
Yes. So that's number one. You need to change your wiper blades. That when you switch on your wiper, you will not hear any sound from your windscreen.
So just to get it clear, once you start hearing that sound, it means you need to replace
time for replacement.
Right.
Right. So that's the warning. Right. So when you set off, you should have what we call the wiper fluid. I think I mentioned it the other time. The wiper fluid must be fully topped up. Okay. And that thing is not soap. Don't use Omo or any hard soap.
So I go to my filling station and there's a specific watery liquid soap kind of thing.
Precisely.
I actually buy it. It's specific for and that's what I use.
Yes.
Blue colored liquid.
Yes, that is it. That is the wiper fluid. A lot of people don't know, and that is why they try to mix up their own chemicals, because some of it also will destroy the rubber. Okay, especially if it's gotten any petroleum products in them. Right. Your wiper blades will go even before the 3 months. So change your wiper blades. Let it be new always. Now, as you set off and then you see that it's raining, you need to ask yourself so many questions. Okay, if you have your phone, you stop, you look at the weather conditions, what your phone says, what Uncle Google will tell you is fairly the truth. Right. If you are traveling and then it's raining heavily, what you need to do is look for somewhere to stop your vehicle, park your vehicle, not under a tree anyway. A plain place is okay. You don't drive in heavy rain. If it's drizzling...
How heavy is heavy?
Well, heavy means that your wiper number 2, that's how I call it, that's the fast, okay, and it's cleaning so fast, but still you can't see. Yeah, that's
so it's at the highest point and you're still struggling.
Precisely. And then also there is a switch in the car that people don't know. Now that switch produces a lot of heat for the windscreen. Okay. Now you need to put that. It's called a defroster. You put it on because obviously you will be using your air conditioner, or you will be using. You'll be driving whilst your glasses are up.
So is it
you
that
need
button that I think it shows, when you want to heat up? Is that the button you're
It's a
referring to?
defroster.
Right.
And then you have it both at the front and then the back glasses.
vehicle, right.
Okay, so you need to put it on. So that will give you that clearance. So whilst you're driving and then you notice that, hey, I cannot drive again, you look for somewhere and park. Don't force yourself to drive in that rainy condition. Now, before it gets to that point, road crashes occur when it's even drizzling, daytime. Okay, because this is a situation where, especially we are driving on a bitumen road. Okay, when it drizzles on it, the whole road becomes very oily. Your brakes wouldn't be able to work well. You have a situation where you go on your brakes and then you find your vehicle moving towards a direction. Even with all the systems that you have, may not be able to work well.
Your car might even skid.
It will skid off, right? So night driving, when you are driving in that situation, is very, very difficult and then very tiring, and therefore you must not attempt. Park your vehicle, let the rains calm down, and when you set off, look for floods. In this situation, look out for the vehicle coming in front of you. Okay. If there are no vehicles, put on your most powerful lights, which is the high lights, and drive slowly, because you may be entering a flood which you may not know, especially when you are traveling and you don't know the condition of that road.
Because you can't see too far ahead because of the weather conditions.
Yes, drive gently, don't be in a hurry, and this time, roll your glasses also down so you get the ambience of if there's any water passing. It's really important.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Very interesting. Because water moving at a speed will make that noise even before you get there.
Right.
And it kills a lot of people, because those driving the 4x4s are so funny. Not every 4x4 is a 4x4. I always say it. We have vehicles like RAV4, Toyota RAV4, that looks like a 4x4, but it is not a 4x4. However, if you are using the most powerful 4x4, you cannot drive in such situation, okay, and then I think at another time we'll talk about how to drive a 4x4 using all your auxiliary gears.
Okay. Right before we wrap on driving at night under extreme weather conditions, I also want to know, when it's raining, you're driving at night, what should you know when it comes to the application of brakes? Very briefly on that.
Well, thank you so much. You have to look out for the vehicle in front of you. When it moves to the left, move towards the left. If it touches his brake, touch your brake. That is it.
The person in front of you should be your guide.
Yes, the person in front of you must always be your guide, because he will not go on his brake if there's no emergency. If he taps on your brake, on his brake, tap on your brake and wait for the next thing that you do. It's so interesting. Don't think that a person in front of you is not driving well. He is a good driver and he is guiding you. So if you're at the fourth car, you see all the cars in front of you doing the same thing, tapping on brakes, moving to the left, moving to the right, and sometimes abrupt stop. Speed limit must not exceed 60 kilometers per hour at night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabra, for walking us through this. Today, we've taken a look at driving at night under extreme or certain weather conditions, specifically rainy conditions. 60 kilometers per hour. Look out for the vehicles ahead of you in terms of how they are braking and all of that. Just follow suit. Don't be in too much of a hurry to get to your destination. Better get to your destination alive than not get there and be dead. That's how we wrap up on a Drive Safe for another segment. Like I always say, drive safe and stay alive. But so you think you know. Here's the answer to today's quiz question. And it's a wrap. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for watching. Welcome back on the AM show. Before we take your calls, and let me just let you know that the number to call is 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. Have you heard of cues and lyrics? Yes. If you haven't, then you're missing out. It is the latest trend when it comes to entertainment. We're reimagining entertainment with cues and lyrics. And the stage is set, and we're ready to blast with Ghana's latest music reality show. Now, Cues and Lyrics is a music competition show that aims to provide the ultimate entertainment to Joy Prime's cherished viewers while offering the biggest platform in terms of unearthing musical talent for those talents to come and show their potential. So make an appointment on Joy Prime as we outdoor the contestants for the maiden edition of Cues and Lyrics on Sunday, April the 16th, coming Sunday at 8:30 p.m. It's going to be nothing short of exciting, thrilling, enthralling, fantabulous. So Cues and Lyrics, bring on the music. That's our tag. It's produced by Joy Prime, your ultimate experience, and powered by Hits FM. Now it is time to hear from you. I hear we have John from KJB. Is it John?
Yeah, this is John.
Okay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from KJG, not KJB.
Right. Thank you for the correction. What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Yes, I want to touch on the assault on the security personnel.
Right, go ahead.
It's becoming one of too many. They are attacking our security personnel too much. But the lynching of Captain Mahama is still fresh in my memory.
Right.
I don't know when I'll forget it. You see, it is about time they have to take action. No, the security people are there to protect lives and properties. And if they themselves are not there, they can't protect. So if somebody attacks you, why don't you defend yourself? Like the one that you were showing. If I were the one, the security, other security people holding the gun, I would have shot the other guy.
Really?
Yes, I will not excuse my words. Sure, because I will not.
But you know, while they may be armed, there are regulations guiding their conduct, and they cannot just shoot people like that.
So I should allow that regulation to entangle me for me to lose my life. I have to protect myself first before I can protect you. Right. I have to protect myself before I can protect you. Without me protecting myself, I can't protect you. So the best thing is, if that thing is becoming unbecoming, they have to. The government have to step in and give the regulation that if they attack you, defend yourself. Like what happened at what do you call it, Asiama. The military people, they were right. If it were me, if I'm the head over there, first we will go there. We will go there and make sure that discipline has been put in order so that they will stop lynching the why? Why do you want to kill them? Why? Please, enough is enough.
Right.
Let us allow the people to do their work. Please.
John, thank you for sharing your comments. That's his opinion, John, calling on that security-related matter. But what do you think? What is your thinking on this matter? You get to share your thoughts with us. We've activated the phone lines so you can share with us what you think. Call that number 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. We have Martin, and this time, yes, we're going to the OT region. I missed out on KJP, but Martin is calling from the OT region, somewhere in the OT region, Jessica. A very good morning to you, Martin.
Good morning, sir.
What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Yeah, I am Matthew from Jessica.
Right, go ahead.
In fact, the misbehavior of civilians towards the police personnel is too much.
Right.
See, it is time the police officers need to emancipate from what? That's a mental civil that don't shoot your civilians. They are there for us. The police are there to protect us. You see, the way the civilians are treating the police officers is not good at all. For me, I'm a teacher. I teach, and I need to protect by the policemen. The way these guys are treating the policemen, in fact, I'm not happy at all about it. Me, I'll not allow it to come to me 2 meters and I'll shoot you down. This serious. I'll shoot you down for 2 meters. If you come to me by 2 meters, I'll shoot you down because I know you're kind of danger to attack me. Civilians should know that the police and the army are there for us and they are our friends. So I'm traveling out from that back.
Right.
The best person as what direction is either the police or the military.
Right.
As any civilian to show me where to go and where not to go. I'm going to this area. Please help me. They will help me. Civilians might rob you, they might kidnap you, they might do it for the police and the military. They are just for us, they are our friends. So this guy, this arrogant guy, the arrogance is too much. It is too much. Right. They have to get a step from that kind of behavior. If not, if you're taking democracy at its high peak, in fact, things not going well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Is not good at all.
Right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. I want us to make it snip so that if there are others on the line, we can pick their thoughts as well in the next 2 minutes or so and move on from there. But what do you think? We also had the water conversation with Stanley Mate. He is communications manager with the Ghana Water Company Limited, and they are embarking on that latest revenue mobilization drive. He laid his cards on the table this morning. So we can talk security, we can talk water, and water feeds into our security situation anyway. What is your take? We have a few more minutes to take your calls. 0302-211-691 is the number to call. 0302-211-691. We'll take our last caller now. John calling from Ketu South in the Volta region. John, welcome on the AM show.
Yes, sorry, the name is Ben.
Oh, Ben. All right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would just like to touch on the security level of the police force. You know, we have some deadly zones in Ghana that...
Ben, I wish you could speak up a little for me. I'm struggling to hear you.
What I'm saying is that... Please, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is that the authorities, they have earmarked some dead zones in Ghana as a threat to the police force.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So with that, what I am thinking they should do is that once they've been deployed there, they should have an AI system that will trigger to all the security agencies around, okay? So that in case of these things, it will trigger because you could see the person holding the police officer down. This should trigger, for a security reinforcement, not necessarily pulling up a call, because at that time, he will not be unable to make any call to reach out to any reinforcement. So there should be a system developed that would be an AI, artificial intelligence, so that it can trigger all the security agencies around for that kind of support, so that they can remediate the situation. I think this is the best way that is to, calm down the level of insecurity to the civilians and to the police force. Thank you.
Ben, thank you too. And he is suggesting that we go as far as harnessing artificial intelligence, AI, in dealing with those hot beds, if you like, when it comes to the threat to the police service. But we've laid our cards on the table. We've had the conversations, pertinent ones this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you, you watching us now. We're grateful that every weekday morning you make us your number one choice. We're grateful for that. But stay with us, because there's a lot more coming your way on Joy News Desk. All the information you need, everything going on in Ghana and beyond. But from our team, Kingsley Otu, Patrick Otulate, Gomez, Ira, and everyone who has made this possible today, we're grateful to you for making this happen. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Let's catch up again, same time tomorrow. But for now, Joy News Desk up next.